Phoenix Nights. Chapter 1152. More than 10 cultivators had died. Many people gasped when they saw that. Many of them hadn't been able to control themselves. They had wanted to rush over and try to snatch the treasures. Fortunately, they hadn't done that. Otherwise, they would have turned into cold corpses just like those people. Even though the god is dead, there's still divine power. You can't get close to it. Otherwise, you'll die unless you have a way to resist the divine power, said a cultivator. Nobody could resist. Nobody wanted the god's corpse and the godly weapon, including Lin Feng. He also wanted the god's corpse and the godly weapon, but it was extremely difficult to obtain them. If we have a top-notch treasure, maybe we can try, said someone. They thought they could use a treasure to protect themselves and resist the divine power. As long as they could get close to the god's corpse, they would have a way to take the treasures. Lin Feng also thought that it was a good idea, but top-notch defensive treasures were too rare. Even though he had the 4 vicious cauldrons, Lin Feng didn't want to use them. That would only attract other people's attention. After all, he was only one person, so he had to be careful. I'll try. A cultivator walked out and took out a treasure. It was a 5-colored umbrella. 5 Elements umbrella! He's from the 5 Elements sect, said someone in surprise. It was a top-notch group that could shake the entire Tianwu continent. The 5 Elements sect was one of the top groups in the Tianwu continent. It was one of the top 10 groups in the Tianwu continent. It could be said that the 5 Elements sect was definitely a giant-level existence. Their disciples possessed many precious treasures. According to legends, the 5 Elements umbrella was a divine weapon. But obviously, the 5 Elements umbrella in front of them hadn't reached that level. It was probably a replica. But even if it was just a replica, it was still shocking enough. Be careful, brother. Many disciples of the 5 Elements sect warned him. Don't worry. If it doesn't work, I'll withdraw, said the disciple. That person wasn't simple either. His name was Hua Tianqi. Hua Tianqi was also a top disciple in the 5 Elements sect. He took out the 5 Elements umbrella, which floated above him. 5 Elements light fell down and protected Hua Tianqi. This 5 Elements umbrella is truly a powerful treasure. The power of the 5 Elements circulates endlessly, and the defensive power it creates is far superior to other treasures of the same level. Lin Feng stroked his chin. The power of the 5 Elements was the basic power of heaven and earth. Any kind of power in the world was evolved from the fusion of the 5 Elements. However, the ratio and order of the fusion of the 5 Elements might be different. The 5 Elements umbrella flowed with the power of the 5 Elements, giving off a feeling of the great Tao of heaven and earth being perfect and flawless. Under the protection of this treasure, Hua Tianqi walked step by step toward the god's corpse. Clang! The divine power struck the 5 Elements' defensive light shield created by the 5 Elements umbrella, but it did not penetrate the 5 Elements umbrella's defense. What a powerful 5 Elements umbrella! It managed to block the attack. Many people were shocked. The power of the 5 Elements umbrella was inconceivable. A hint of joy appeared on Hua Tianqi's face. He walked very carefully, approaching step by step. However, the closer he got to the 2 god corpses, the greater the pressure he was under. When he was about 15 meters away from the 2 god corpses, the elemental umbrella's defense began to crack. How can this be? Hua Tianqi was unwilling. He was only a dozen meters away from the 2 god corpses. The god corpses and divine weapons were within his reach, but now he was about to miss them. It was very difficult for him to accept this. He clenched his teeth and did not choose to retreat. Instead, he wanted to take a gamble. Perhaps he would be able to gain an opportunity. Hua Tianqi continued to walk forward. After walking for about 3 meters, the defensive light shield formed by the 5 Elements umbrella shattered. Hua Tianqi was sent flying as if he had been struck by lightning. His body exploded in midair, and the 5 Elements umbrella flew out. Senior brother, you died so miserably! The disciples of the 5 Elements sect cried bitterly. They thought about how Hua Tianqi had taken care of them in every possible way in the past. Now that he had met such a miserable end, they couldn't help but cry. Many people were speechless. Hua Tianqi's death had a huge impact on them. Such a powerful person had been killed in an instant. The divine power was too terrifying. Hua Tianqi is a person who confuses riches and honor with overestimating one's capabilities. Frankly speaking, he died because he couldn't control his greed. Lin Feng shook his head slightly. Cultivators often needed to be bold and take risks. In dangerous situations, not only could they obtain treasures, but they could also find a way to escape. Riches and honor came from taking risks. Obviously, taking the god corpses and divine weapons was overestimating one's capabilities. If he didn't have the 5 elements umbrella's defense, he would have died. Hua Tianqi knew that the 5 elements umbrella couldn't block the divine power, but he still insisted on taking the divine weapons because he was too greedy. Since ancient times, how many cultivators had died because they couldn't control their greed? There were countless cultivators like that. "Let me try," said Hua Tianqi. At that moment, a group of more than 10 people arrived. The leader of the group was wearing purple clothes and looked very handsome. "Zidong Lai! Heavens! They're disciples of the Geomasters!" shouted many people in astonishment. To the countless factions of the Tianwu continent, the Geomaster branch was filled with many mysteries. They possessed many terrifying secret techniques and could control all kinds of energies in the world for their own use. Many groups were afraid of them. Now, the Geomasters had appeared. Perhaps they really had a way to take the god corpses and divine weapons. Many people greeted Zidong Lai and the others enthusiastically. Being able to get to know a Geomaster was definitely a good thing. They might be able to use the Geomasters someday in the future. Lin Feng stood in the distance, frowning slightly as he looked at the Geomasters. He hadn't thought that he would run into them here. The Geomasters hadn't seen him yet, but if they did, they would definitely attack him. They wouldn't let a Geomaster's disciple off. Of course, Lin Feng wasn't afraid. So what if the Geomasters had more people? If they really started fighting, Lin Feng wasn't afraid of them at all. Surrounded by many people, the inheritors of the Geomaster bloodline arrived at the very front. Zidong Lai narrowed his eyes as he looked at the god corpses and divine weapons. His eyes burned with passion. Whether it was the god corpses or the divine weapons, they were both extremely valuable. They could shock the world. Such treasures could make anyone go crazy. "Senior brother, the godly might hasn't dispersed yet. I'm afraid it won't be easy to take them," said a Geomaster. "No matter," said Zidong Lai. He stepped forward, and 8 illusory worlds appeared around him. It was as if he had entered a world of his own. The godly might couldn't harm him. He quickly approached the god corpses and divine weapons. "That's too powerful. He can completely ignore the godly might. Will Zidong take the god corpses and divine weapons?" Many people cried out in alarm. Chapter 1153. 8 Worlds! Lin Feng looked gloomy. He recognized Zidong Lai's secret technique. It was a legacy of the Celestial Master Path. Lin Feng had only read about it, but he hadn't been able to learn how to practice it. That was because the Celestial Master Path's top secret technique, the 8 Worlds, had been stolen by the Geomasters. Every time a descendant of the Celestial Master Path appeared, the Geomasters would send people to kill them. The Celestial Master Path's descendants had only one descendant, but the Geomasters had many descendants. Even though the Celestial Master Path's descendants could rely on their extraordinary abilities to win most of the battles and cause the Geomasters to suffer heavy losses, the Celestial Master Path's descendants still had many descendants. But in the end, some of the Celestial Master Path's descendants were killed in battles with the Geomasters. Then, part of the legacy was lost. Perhaps that was why the Celestial Master Path's legacy was incomplete. That was how the 8 Worlds had been lost. Lin Feng was now a descendant of the Celestial Master Path. When he thought about how the Geomasters had mercilessly killed his ancestors, he couldn't help but feel angry and murderous. Just because of jealousy. The Geomasters had attacked the Celestial Master Path's descendants over and over again. How despicable! What kind of technique is that? It's so mysterious. Yeah, it's too terrifying. It's unbelievable. The Geomasters are really powerful. They're like gods. Have you heard of the Celestial Master Path? Of course. It's said that the Celestial Master Path's branch is the most heaven-defying one. It can suppress the Geomasters in every aspect. That cultivator called Lin Feng is a descendant of the Celestial Master Path. If he fights against the Geomasters, it'll be a fierce battle. The Geomasters have killed many of the Celestial Master Path's descendants and stolen many of their legacies. The secret technique Zidong Lai used is called the Eight Worlds. It's said that it's a legacy of the Celestial Master Path. Quite a number of cultivators were discussing the matter in hushed tones. Clearly, some of them knew quite a bit about the Heavenly Master lineage and Earthly Master lineage. Thus, they spoke of the grudges between the Heavenly Master lineage and the Earthly Master lineage. Many people were amazed. They did not expect that the Celestial Master lineage and the Earth Master lineage would have such a grudge. They were even looking forward to seeing the clash between the successor of the Celestial Master lineage, Lin Feng. When the time came, it would definitely be brilliant. For these cultivators who were here to watch the show, the more intense and exciting the fight was, the more they liked to watch. The world in all directions rose and fell. When the divine might shrouded over, it was all devoured and dissolved by the Eight Worlds. As one of the top inheritances of the Heavenly Master's lineage, the world of Eight Directions had many miraculous aspects. For example, the world of Eight Directions could devour all kinds of attacks and dissolve them. It was similar to mana immunity, but it was fundamentally different from mana immunity. Another example was that when the world of Eight Directions was cultivated to a high level, the eight illusory worlds would condense into the power of space-time laws. The eight worlds around the body would float up and down, and with a single step, it would be like crossing eight small worlds. This was a heaven-defying speed divine ability. This divine ability was different from the golden body wings and void travel. The golden wings allowed one to fly, while void travel allowed one to travel long distances in the void. The world of Eight Directions allowed one to walk. Stepping on the ground, one could cross the distance of eight small worlds with a single step. It was much more advanced than void travel. Of course, it was extremely difficult to cultivate to that level. If one's cultivation base reached the divine spirit realm, it might be possible. However, no matter what, the world of Eight Directions was an extremely heaven-defying orthodoxy. This was the inheritance of the Celestial Master lineage. Now that it had been taken away by the Earthly Master lineage, Lin Feng was abnormally furious. He was planning to find an opportunity to kill Zidong Lai and take back the inheritance that belonged to the Celestial Master lineage. Under the protection of the world of Eight Directions, Zidong Lai finally arrived in front of the god's corpse and divine artifact. Even with Zidong Lai's calm personality, he was now excited. He released his magic power, intending to collect the two gods' corpses and divine artifacts. However, at that moment, a destructive force escaped from the two gods' corpses. In that instant, everyone thought that the two gods' corpses were not dead. They were just in a deep sleep. Now they were about to be resurrected. This was naturally a scene that caused everyone to be shocked and moved. It was simply unbelievable. Previously, the two gods' corpses had not shown any signs of abnormality. Even though they had exuded divine power, it was still the divine power of the god's corpse. That was also the divine might that the god's corpse possessed. Even if the god died, the divine might would not completely dissipate. However, the terrifying aura that was being emitted now was more like a god that had been blasphemed and was in a thunderous rage. Bang! That terrifying force blasted towards Zidong Lai, and the world of Eight Directions began to collapse. Zidong Lai's expression changed drastically, and he quickly retreated. However, Zidong Lai still suffered a calamity. The world of Eight Directions was broken, and he was sent flying by the terrifying aura emitted by the two gods' corpses. Barf! In midair, Zidong Lai coughed up large mouthfuls of blood. He crashed heavily to the ground, his face as pale as paper. Clearly, the attack just now had seriously injured him. Senior brother! A disciple of the Earth Master Branch hurriedly ran over and helped Zidong lie up. He poured out a healing pill and fed it to him. Only then did Zidong Lai's expression improve slightly. Zidong Lai failed. Many people were horrified. They had originally thought that Zidong Lai would succeed. However, when they thought of the aura emitted by the two gods' corpses, they realized that Zidong Lai's failure was quite normal. If it had been anyone else, they would have died long ago. However, Zidong Lai had survived. This was enough to show how terrifying he was. Although a god is dead, his corpse is still not something we can covet. Some cultivators sighed. They had already given up on collecting the god's corpse and the two divine artifacts. Even Zidong Lai, the successor of the Earth Master Branch, had failed. How could anyone else? These two gods' corpses are a bit strange. Lin Feng frowned slightly. He carefully observed the two gods' corpses. Although they no longer had any aura of life, they still had two gods' corpses. However, when Lin Feng looked at the two gods' corpses, he felt that there was something wrong with them. As for what exactly was wrong, Lin Feng couldn't put his finger on it. His heart was shrouded in a shadow. We can't see the gods' corpses, and there seems to be a person lying inside the crystal coffin. Could it be Heavenly God Star All Heaven? We can't even touch the two gods' corpses, let alone Heavenly God Star All Heaven in the crystal coffin. Some cultivators shook their heads. They felt that there was no hope. Even if there was a fortuitous opportunity here, they wouldn't be able to obtain it. However, at that moment, someone suddenly cried out in shock. Why is the crystal coffin empty? Where's the corpse lying inside? Everyone looked over. Sure enough, he found that the crystal coffin was empty, and the corpse lying inside had disappeared. Everyone felt a chill run down their spines, and their scalps went numb. The situation in front of them was too strange. Chapter 1154. How could there be no one in the crystal coffin? When they had first entered, they had clearly seen a corpse lying in the crystal coffin. But now, the corpse had disappeared without a trace. Everyone knew that something strange had happened in the cave. Hurry up and run! Many cultivators shouted in horror as they rushed outside. However, very soon, a blood-curdling scream was heard. It was incomparably mournful. Everyone in the belly of the mountain felt a chill run down their spines after hearing it. What happened? Could it be that they've been robbed? Said someone in a trembling voice. His face was full of fear because everything that had happened was too strange. Let's go out and take a look, said a cultivator. He didn't want to sit around and wait for death. No, I definitely won't go out. It's too scary. If I go out, I'll definitely die, shouted a cultivator. He was scared out of his wits and didn't dare to go out. He would rather stay in the cave. There were many cultivators like that. Some of the bolder ones joined forces and entered the cave to investigate the situation. This is... Lin Feng was shocked when he saw more than 10 corpses lying on the ground. The corpses had died in a strange way. Their lower bodies had disappeared, leaving only their upper bodies. It was too strange. Lin Feng had seen this situation before when he had first entered the cave. How can this be? Could it be that the death of the cultivator from before is related to the disappearance of the corpse, just like the deaths of these people? Muttered Lin Feng to himself. His expression was grave, because he felt that the situation was very bad. If it was really as he guessed, didn't that mean that when everyone had just entered the Heavenly Star Cave, the corpse wasn't actually lying in the crystal coffin, but was moving around outside? Moreover, it had eaten the lower body of a cultivator. Later, when more and more cultivators had entered, the corpse had been lying in the crystal coffin. Then, it had disappeared without a trace? If that was the case, was it still a corpse? Could it have turned into a Yin spirit? Lin Feng couldn't help but take a deep breath when he thought about the Yin god. If there really was a Yin god in this place, then all of them would be dead. Brother, did you discover something? Someone noticed Lin Feng's abnormality and said with a trembling voice. Clearly, everyone was on the verge of collapse. Who could face life and death without fear? In this world, no one could do that. These cultivators couldn't do it, and neither could Lin Feng. When I first entered the Heavenly Star Cave, I saw a corpse whose lower body had been bitten off. Now I see it again. I suspect that it has something to do with the corpse that disappeared. Lin Feng took a deep breath and said. Many people's expressions changed drastically. Suddenly, a gust of cold wind blew in from outside the cave. Vaguely, everyone heard a clattering sound. It sounded like footsteps. It was as if something was slowly approaching. Something's coming. Hurry up and retreat. Retreat to the belly of the mountain. Lin Feng's expression changed greatly. He didn't dare to stay and quickly retreated. The rest of the people were so scared that their faces turned pale. No one dared to stay in the passage any longer. The group quickly retreated back into the mountain. What's going on? Asked someone. His face was deathly pale because he could see that Lin Feng and the others were astonished. Something terrifying must have happened. Otherwise, why would all the cultivators who had entered the passage to check out the situation look so terrified? There's something dirty, a cultivator said in a trembling voice. Ah! Suddenly, a miserable shriek was heard. Everyone looked over and saw something terrifying. In the belly of the mountain, the lower half of a cultivator's body had disappeared. This cultivator was the one who had entered the passage to check out the situation. Did any of you see what happened? Lin Feng asked in a low voice. He felt that the situation had taken a turn for the worse. He couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. We didn't see anything! Many people shouted in fear. Their faces were pale. The unknown was the most terrifying thing, just like everything that was happening now. Ah! Another miserable shriek was heard. A second cultivator had met with a calamity. The lower half of his body had disappeared, and he died a miserable death. He's also one of the cultivators who entered the passage to check out the situation, someone said. How could this be? I don't want to die. The cultivators who had gone out to check out the situation were all pale. Ah! Another miserable shriek was heard. It was from the same cultivator who had just gone out to check out the situation. The lower half of his body had disappeared without a trace. The upper half of his body fell to the ground. Blood flowed out. He had died a miserable death. This time, everyone saw it clearly. Nothing had happened. He was just standing there, but the lower half of his body had suddenly disappeared. He had died a miserable death. Everything was too strange. Stay away from them. Many people shouted in fear and quickly retreated. Lin Feng and the others were separated. No one dared to get close to them for fear of being attacked. Since we're going to die, we might as well fight it out. Maybe we can escape. A cultivator gritted his teeth. Whoosh, whoosh, 5 or 6 cultivators rushed into the passage together, trying to escape. However, very soon, a few shrill screams were heard from the tunnel. Those cultivators had obviously met with calamity and died in the end. Including Lin Feng, there were 8 people left. I didn't expect that we would die like this. We died without knowing why. A cultivator sighed. In the next moment, the lower half of his body had disappeared without a trace. That cultivator also died on the spot. Ah! Miserable shrieks came one after another. The surrounding cultivators fell down one after another. Seeing all these people die tragically, Lin Feng's face was pale. He hurriedly took out the Bodhi seed and the Sarira, the 2 treasures of Buddhism, and held them in his hands. At that moment, Lin Feng felt a cold and terrifying aura surging towards him, wanting to devour him. That gloomy and cold strength made Lin Feng unable to move. He even had the impression that he was losing consciousness. He had a horrified expression on his face. It was very likely that the terrifying existence was close to him. That brat is going to die too, many people said in trembling voices. No one thought that Lin Feng could survive. However, just as that cold energy was about to completely engulf Lin Feng, the Bodhi seed and the Saraira in Lin Feng's hands suddenly changed. The two treasures emitted a dense Buddhist light. The two Buddhist lights intertwined and enveloped Lin Feng. Chi, something seemed to touch the light barrier around Lin Feng, and there was a burning sound. Screech! Immediately after, a shrill scream was heard. Come out! Lin Feng shouted coldly. He held the Saraira in his right hand, and the Buddhist light enveloped his fist. He punched forward. In the next moment, a terrifying existence in white clothes appeared. Keek! He laughed sinisterly. Ain God, it's Ain God! Seeing that existence, everyone trembled in fear, and their faces turned pale. Ain God had really been born here. Moreover, this Ain God was very likely formed from the evil intent of Heavenly Star All Heaven after his death. Heavenly Star All Heaven was so terrifyingly powerful. The Ain God formed from his evil intent probably had the power to kill a true God. Thinking of this, everyone couldn't help but feel endless despair. Chapter 1155. Back in the days, on the battlefield of gods and demons, Lin Feng had seen Yinshin. Ain God was an evil spirit formed from the evil intent of an expert who had died. However, the Ain gods that had appeared in the ancient battlefield of gods and demons paled in comparison to the Ain God in front of him. There were strong and weak cultivators. The same principle applied. There were also strong and weak Ain gods. The Ain God in front of him was definitely an extremely powerful one. Lin Feng guessed that this Ain God should be the Ain God formed after the death of the Heavenly Star God. Lin Feng's guess was not without reason. The Heavenly Star God was originally the heavenly official of the Undying World's heavenly court. He had intercepted a portion of the sacred origin fluid, which had enraged the heavenly court's higher-ups, and they wanted to behead him. Although he had managed to escape with the help of Great Marshal Tianhe, his family had been implicated and all of them had been executed. Great Marshal Tianhe, who had saved him, had also been deposed. It was said that he was later framed by someone and ended up with his body and Tao dissipated. The Heavenly Star God had been hiding from place to place, narrowly escaping the heavenly court's pursuit time and time again. It would not be an exaggeration to say that he had been living an ignoble life. The Heavenly Star God had suffered too great a blow. His family had died tragically, and the old Great Marshal had been implicated. He could only hide and live an ignoble life. The Heavenly Star God must have accumulated boundless hatred in his heart. After the Heavenly Star God's death, this hatred had transformed into evil intent. The more hatred there was, the more evil intent there was. The Ain gods formed were also more powerful. Therefore, the Ain God in front of them was almost invincible. At the very least, it was not something that Lin Feng and the others could deal with. It was too terrifying. The entire mountainside was dead silent. Everyone looked at the Ain God in horror. Lin Feng held the Buddhist Saraira and Bodhi seed and retreated continuously. Although these two Buddhist treasures could injure the Ain God, Lin Feng knew that the Ain God in front of him was too powerful. If the Ain God was willing to pay a certain price, it could definitely kill him. Therefore, Lin Feng had no choice but to be cautious. Yinshin looked coldly at Lin Feng before turning to look at the surrounding cultivators. Everyone retreated, afraid that the Ain deity would attack them. Yinshin had no intention of letting anyone go. He stretched out his pale right hand. Following that, the ghostly aura spread out and covered the sky, covering the entire mountain. He wants to catch them all in one fell swoop? Many people were horrified. Boom! Suddenly, someone took out a supreme treasure. Hum! A loud dragon roar could be heard as a true dragon appeared, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws as it charged towards the Ain God. It was a young girl who looked to be about 16 or 17 years old. She had a mischievous look and was holding a treasure in her hand. It was a scroll. The real dragon flew out from the scroll. This is the Thousand Shapes painting? After seeing the scroll, some cultivators exclaimed in surprise. Thousand Shapes painting. It was an existence that was second only to monarch weapons. It was rumored that this was a supreme treasure forged by a giant god-level powerhouse. It was very famous in the Tianwu continent. It was a supreme treasure passed down from the Thousand Shapes sect. The young girl was able to bring out a supreme treasure like the Thousand Shapes painting at such a young age. It was obvious that her identity was extraordinary. She must have been given the Thousand Shapes painting by the higher-ups of the sect to protect herself. I heard that the sect leader of the Thousand Shapes sect has a daughter who is only 16 or 17 years old. Could that be the girl in front of us? Someone said. Inshin did not dare to be careless as the true dragon pounced towards him. Boundless ghostly aura swept across the sky and condensed into a ghostly claw that collided with the true dragon. After the collision, Inshin was forced to retreat. Many people sucked in a breath of cold air. As expected of the Thousand Shapes painting, the power of this treasure was too terrifying. Even Inshin was forced to retreat. The true dragon did not continue to attack Inshin. Activating a treasure like the Thousand Shapes painting was not an easy task as it consumed a lot of energy. It was obvious that the young girl could not activate this supreme treasure for a long time. The true dragon flew back and returned to the Thousand Shapes painting. Keek keek! Inshin cackled. His voice was sinister and shrill. He looked coldly at the young girl with a hint of fear. Originally, Inshin wanted to attack the cultivators in the mountain, but now he was afraid of the Thousand Shapes painting in the young girl's hands. Hence, he did not attack her. Many people heaved a sigh of relief. Everyone was safe for the time being. Crack! Crack! Suddenly, the center of the mountain cracked open. Then, a doubt platform slowly rose up. This shocked everyone. What was going on? Unexpectedly, a doubt platform rose up from the cracked belly of the mountain. That's... Soon, someone exclaimed. There was a ball of golden energy floating above the doubt platform. A drop of divine liquid was sealed in this ball of golden energy. Everyone was shocked when they saw this drop of divine liquid. Could this be the legendary sacred source liquid? Back then, Heavenly Star Luo had suffered such a tragic fate because of the sacred source liquid. If this was the sacred source liquid, then its value was too great. Even Inshin's gaze was fixed on the sacred source liquid. He also wanted the sacred source liquid. However, the sacred source liquid was still enveloped by a powerful seal. This seal was extremely terrifying and caused the surrounding space to distort. Even Inshin did not dare to forcefully break the seal. At that moment, something that shocked everyone happened. The two god corpses opened their eyes. Everyone felt a sinister and terrifying aura. How could existences that had been dead for so many years still be able to open their eyes? This was too inconceivable. The two god corpses revived. They did not continue fighting. One god corpse wielded a spear, while the other wielded a treasure sword. They and Inshin were now in a tripartite confrontation. Clearly, the two god corpses also had their eyes on the sacred source liquid. Everyone wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. However, this place had been sealed and there was no way to leave. Everyone's hearts were shrouded in a shadow because Inshin and the god corpses had no intention of letting them leave. Did this mean that these three terrifying existences wanted to use them for something? As for what that something was, no one knew. Lin Feng frowned slightly. His gaze swept back and forth between the two god corpses and Inshin. In the end, Lin Feng's gaze landed on the doubt platform. Although the seal on the doubt platform was constantly weakening, the rate of weakening was very slow. Lin Feng's heart suddenly jumped. Could Inshin and the two god corpses be planning to kill everyone and use their lives as a sacrifice to destroy the seal around the sacred source liquid? If that was the case, things would be troublesome. Chapter 1156. Lin Feng didn't know whether Inshin and the two gods' corpses had the same goal or not, but he was extremely cautious. If he wasn't careful, he would die. Lin Feng cautiously walked over to the girl holding the 10,000 shapes painting. Damn, why are you squeezing? Many people shouted in dissatisfaction. She's my little sister, Lin Feng shouted. So it's a young master from the Thousand Shapes sect. Nice to meet you. Many people's expressions changed, and they made way for Lin Feng. Lin Feng came to the girl's side and said, "Little sister, I've been looking for you. It's great to see that you're fine." Humph! The girl snorted and stared at Lin Feng with her big eyes. She didn't expose Lin Feng, but her eyes seemed to ask, "Who are you? Why are you approaching me?" Lin Feng approached the girl because she had the Thousand Shapes painting. It was safer to be near her. "Get ready to break out," Lin Feng whispered. The girl nodded. She was too young, and it would be difficult for her to break out with the Thousand Shapes painting. She needed some help. However, now wasn't the time to break out. They needed to wait. Boom! At that moment, a terrifying aura spread out from Yinshin and the two corpses. Yinshin and the two corpses forced their way over. When Lin Feng saw that, his expression changed. He had thought that Yinshin and the two gods' corpses would attack them. Now, it seemed like his guess was about to be verified. "Be careful!" Many people cried out in fear. Yinshin and the two corpses had attacked. They were too powerful. Once they attacked, no one would be able to stop the Yin spirit and the two god corpses. Pooh! The sound of flesh being torn apart could be heard. Many people were killed on the spot. After these people died, their blood flowed out, forming a small stream that flowed towards the Dao platform. It was a strange scene. It was as if the Dao platform was actively absorbing the blood. The Dao platform itself gave off an evil feeling. Buzz! The girl took out the Thousand Shapes painting, and it floated above, shining with divine light. This treasure was too extraordinary. Even Yinshin and the two corpses avoided it, unwilling to come into contact with it. At the very least, they didn't want to come into direct contact with the Thousand Shapes painting. Whether or not they would attack the girl with the Thousand Shapes painting was unknown. "Get out of the way! Let me enter the barrier!" Many people shouted angrily, trying to enter the barrier formed by the Thousand Shapes painting. However, the defensive light shield of the Thousand Shapes painting only covered a radius of 4 to 5 meters. Most people were outside the defensive light shield. The Shapes paintings and the corpses were mercilessly slaughtered. Their blood quickly dried up, and their bodies turned into dried corpses. All of their blood was absorbed by the Dao platform. The Dao platform's painting, the Thousand Shapes' teeth, the Thousand Shapes' ST. The Yin spirit and the god's corpse were both extremely excited. Crack, crack! Suddenly, the barrier teet. In the end, it disappeared without a trace. Yinshin and the two corpses charged at the golden energy that enveloped the sacred source liquid. The three of them didn't want to give way to each other. "Let's go!" shouted Lin Feng. If they didn't leave now, they wouldn't be able to leave once the battle was over. Everyone rushed outside, but at that moment, the shockwaves of the battle spread out. It was like a wave of death. Any cultivator who was hit by the shockwaves exploded, dying on the spot. They couldn't withstand the shockwaves of the battle at all. What was even more frightening was that the cave was still sealed by the Yin deity's ghost chi. No one could get out unless they could break the Yin deity's ghost chi. Otherwise, they would still be trapped here and only death would await them. "We don't have a choice. Don't be stingy with your lifespan. Burn it and activate the Thousand Shapes painting to break the seal!" shouted Lin Feng. Only a small portion of the cultivators protected by the Thousand Shapes painting had survived. There were about 100 people left. Everyone knew that it was a matter of life and death, so they didn't hesitate to burn their lifespan. Powerful energy surged into the Thousand Shapes painting, which released a powerful divine aura that swept through the air. Pfft. The sound of flesh being torn apart could be heard. The ghost chi seal created by the Yinshin was instantly torn apart by the Thousand Shapes painting. Everyone's eyes lit up, and they quickly rushed outside. The Yinshin roared angrily. He was very unwilling to let so many cultivators escape. However, he had to fight for the sacred source liquid and couldn't be distracted. The three of them were locked in a fierce battle. The sacred source liquid should be extremely important to them. All three of them wanted the sacred source liquid, but it wouldn't be easy unless they could defeat each other. "Take out the heaven-devouring jar and collect the sacred source liquid," said the demon lord just as Lin Feng was about to enter the passage and leave. "Are you crazy? Angering the Yin and the two corpses will result in a tragic death," replied Lin Feng. He didn't want to court death. "Don't worry, I'll take you away," said the demon lord. "Okay." Since the demon lord had given his word, Lin Feng relaxed and took out the heaven-devouring jar. The heaven-devouring jar suddenly sucked. The golden energy that enveloped the sacred source liquid quickly flew toward the jar. "You're courting death!" The Yin and the corpses roared angrily. Lin Feng thought that the three of them didn't know how to speak, but it turned out that they just didn't want to speak. They wanted to keep the sacred source liquid. At that moment, the demon lord made his move. A purgatory world appeared in front of the Yin and the two corpses. This divine ability was called One-Step Purgatory. It was one of the demon lord's most powerful divine abilities. One step into the purgatory and there was a 90% chance of survival. The Yin and the two corpses were blocked. The sacred source liquid was instantly devoured by the heaven-devouring jar. After collecting the heaven-devouring jar, Lin Feng didn't dare to stay and quickly rushed outside. The Yin and the two corpses roared angrily. Someone actually dared to mess with them and steal the treasure they had coveted for a long time. The Yin and the two corpses were furious. They broke the demon lord's divine ability and quickly chased after him. Boom! A terrifying attack came from behind, enveloping Lin Feng and trying to drown him. The demon lord made his move. A divine light enveloped Lin Feng and blocked the attacks of the Yin and the two corpses. Bang! In the next moment, Lin Feng was sent flying by the combined attacks of the Yin and the two corpses. Crack, crack. Countless bones in his body were broken. Lin Feng spat out a large mouthful of blood and fell heavily to the ground. "Not good, I misjudged their strength. The Yin and the two corpses are much stronger than I thought." The demon lord's expression changed. At that moment, the Yin and the two corpses pounced on him. Lin Feng wanted to cry, but no tears came out. Saying that he misjudged the strength of the Yin and the two corpses? Wasn't that just cheating? Lin Feng wanted nothing more than to slap the demon lord to death. Chapter 1157. Despicable human brat, how dare you steal our sacred source liquid? You deserve to die! Yin and the two god corpses' voices were cold and filled with endless killing intent. They were infuriated by the fact that an ant dared to challenge their dignity. They were even thinking about how to torture Lin Feng to appease their anger. Buzz! At that moment, the demon lord's figure appeared and stood between Lin Feng, Yin, and the two god corpses. No wonder this brat dared to steal from us. It turns out that he has a spirit backing him up. Today, I'll kill you and eat your origin. Yin laughed sinisterly. Attack! The two god corpses said at the same time. Boom! The three great existences attacked the demon lord. The demon lord immediately started fighting with the three great existences. The demon lord had indeed recovered well over the years. Lin Feng was surprised that he wasn't defeated even though he was fighting 1 against 3. However, not losing was only temporary. Yin and the two god corpses were too tyrannical. The more they fought, the braver they became. They even joined forces to attack the demon lord. After all, the demon lord was only one person. Being surrounded, he had expended a lot of energy, and his strength was quickly declining. Although Yin and the two god corpses were also weakening, they didn't use their full strength because they were attacking the demon lord. Their strength was declining much slower than the demon lord's. Therefore, the demon lord was gradually showing signs of fatigue. Enter the 4 ferocious cauldron, the demon lord said solemnly. Lin Feng didn't dare to hesitate. He quickly took out the 4 ferocious cauldron and entered it. After entering the cauldron, he activated his immortal divine body and recovered from his injuries. The demon lord also entered the 4 ferocious cauldron after blocking Yin and the two god corpses' attacks. Then, the cauldron's lid closed, completely sealing the cauldron. Yinshin and the two god corpses couldn't enter the cauldron. After the demon lord entered the cauldron, he hurriedly activated the cauldron. With the demon lord's strength, there was no problem in activating this treasure. Roar! Their roars shook the heavens. The four ferocious beasts branded on the cauldron, Hun Dun, Tao Wu, Cheong Qi, and Tao Tai, were instantly revived. The shadows of the four ferocious beasts appeared and hovered in midair, roaring at Yinshin and the two god corpses. The four ferocious cauldrons soared into the sky in an attempt to break out of the encirclement. Humph! Yinshin and the two god corpses snorted coldly. Yinshin took out a pitch-black evil blade. Holding the evil blade with both hands, he slashed at Lin Fan. One of the two god corpses wielded a battle spear, while the other wielded a treasured sword. Clang! 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 3 consecutive clanging sounds rang out. The sound shook the heavens. The cauldron was smashed back by the Yin god and the two god corpses. They have supreme treasures in their hands. It'll be difficult for them to break through. The demon lord's expression darkened slightly. Then what should we do? Are we going to be trapped to death? Lin Feng's expression was gloomy. Take out your divine source and burn it to activate the cauldron. Awaken the spirit of the cauldron, the demon lord said. Lin Feng nodded and took out a portion of his divine source. These god essences were instantly ignited. It turned into pure energy and fused with the cauldron. Immediately after, an ancient aura spread out from the cauldron. Who is calling out to the great god of the cauldron? A deep voice resounded within the cauldron. This should be the spirit of the cauldron. However, the spirit didn't reveal its true body, perhaps because it didn't burn enough divine source. Therefore, that was why it couldn't reveal itself. However, the spirit still managed to awaken a portion of its power. The demon lord shouted, "The master of the cauldron is in trouble. He needs to borrow your power." Some top-grade divine weapons had spirits that were stronger than many gods. However, these spirits spent most of their time in slumber, so it was difficult to borrow their power. The demon lord was talking to the spirit of the cauldron because he wanted to borrow its power. The divine source I sacrificed is far from enough. I can only borrow a portion of your divine power. The spirit of the cauldron spoke. There was a price to pay if one wanted to borrow the power of an extremely powerful being. The demon lord was like that. The spirit of the cauldron was the same. Fortunately, the divine source was exchanged for a portion of the cauldron spirit's divine power. With this portion of divine power, the cauldron's power increased greatly. The cauldron flew into the air. Once again, it charged outside. Stop it! The Yin god and the two god corpses roared and swung their weapons at the cauldron. However, this time, with the spirit's divine power, the cauldron's power increased greatly. Bang! 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 3 consecutive sounds of violent collisions were heard. The Yin god and the two god corpses were sent flying by the cauldron. The cauldron turned into a streak of light and disappeared in the blink of an eye. In the end, the cauldron charged out of the heavenly star grotto. The Yin god and the two god corpses chased after it, but they couldn't get out of the grotto. They stood at the entrance and roared furiously. Lin Feng returned to the island where he'd been in seclusion. He was quite lucky to be able to escape this time. Lin Feng split the sacred source liquid in half with the demon lord. He asked, "What's the use of the sacred source liquid?" The demon lord replied, "The sacred source liquid is extremely useful for bloodlines. First, it can awaken bloodlines that can't be awakened. Second, if a powerful bloodline completely disappears for some reason, just like your undying divine blood, then your undying divine body will be crippled and you won't be able to awaken your undying divine blood. However, if you consume the sacred source liquid, it can revive your crippled constitution and awaken your special bloodline. Third, the sacred source liquid can greatly increase the purity and power of your bloodline." Lin Feng was shocked. No wonder the heavenly star god had taken such a huge risk to keep the sacred source liquid. The Yin god and the two god corpses were also eyeing the sacred source liquid. The effects of the sacred source liquid were simply too heaven-defying. If he consumed the sacred source liquid, his undying divine blood would continue to awaken. His undying divine blood was already 30% awakened, so how much would he be able to awaken after consuming the sacred source liquid? Lin Feng guessed that it would increase his undying divine blood's purity by 20%, possibly even reaching 50%. Moreover, his undying divine blood would become even purer after consuming the sacred source liquid. In fact, the impurities in his bloodline would be purified. The purer the bloodline, the more powerful it would be. Of course, what truly shocked Lin Feng was the sacred source liquid's other ability, which was to awaken his dormant bloodline. He had an even more powerful bloodline. The sovereign bloodline. Could he refine the sacred source liquid? Awaken the sovereign bloodline? At this thought, Lin Feng felt his heart thump violently. If he could condense the sovereign bloodline in his body, the sovereign bloodline could be awakened. This was a heaven-defying constitution that surpassed the 10 great taboo constitutions of the primordial era. Chapter 1158. Lin Feng didn't know how powerful the sovereign physique was, but Lin Feng knew that the ancestor of his mother's clan had broken through the Undying Realm and almost killed the Emperor Realm Demon Lord with a slap. This was enough to show how terrifying the sovereign physique was. The Demon Lord had said that Lin Feng would have to break through to the God Realm to have a chance of awakening the sovereign bloodline under normal circumstances. Whether or not he could awaken it was still unknown, and the God Realm was too far away. But now, Lin Feng had a chance to awaken the sovereign bloodline, and that was the sacred origin liquid. Lin Feng was extremely excited. He really wanted to know what kind of physique the sovereign physique was that it could make the ancestor of the sovereign clan so powerful. The Demon Lord went to refine the portion of sacred origin liquid he had obtained. And Lin Feng was adjusting his condition. He wanted to refine the sacred origin liquid in his best condition to awaken the sovereign bloodline. The sacred origin liquid was devoured by Lin Feng. Waves of powerful energy spread from Lin Feng's body. Lin Feng had the urge to roar at the sky. The boundless energy in his body converged into a vast river, surging through his limbs, bones, and meridians, surging and flowing. Lin Feng circulated the archaic dragonesque elephant art, absorbing the energy from the sacred origin liquid. The energy gradually merged with Lin Feng's blood under the circulation of the archaic dragonesque elephant art. Lin Feng didn't let the undying god blood absorb the energy. Lin Feng needed the sacred origin liquid to stimulate his bloodline and awaken the dormant sovereign bloodline. Time slowly passed. No one knew how much time had passed. Lin Feng suddenly sensed that his body was getting hotter and hotter. He even felt as if his blood was about to burn. Boom! The 5 devouring martial spirits in his dantian began to revolve. He had inherited the devouring martial spirits from his mother. Now, the 5 devouring martial spirits had merged into one. Lin Feng's magic power and blood all gathered in his dantian. This was the core area of a cultivator, as well as the driving force of a cultivator. Endless years, the blood of the sovereign emperor, the heavenly Tao cannot extinguish it, eternal and everlasting. Suddenly, Lin Feng could faintly hear a melodious voice. It seemed to have traversed through endless time and space, from the beginning of the world to this time and space. Lin Feng felt as if his spiritual will had entered an ancient world. This world was hazy, and the world was still turbid. The sky was not high. The ground was not thick. All living beings had yet to be born. Only some pre-world saint spirits existed in the world before the creation of the world. Big guy, pick up the axes in your hands and split open this world. Don't you feel that the sky is very low, the earth is very thin, and this world is very dry? Let the sky be taller, and the earth thicker. Only then will life be more interesting. A hazy silhouette said to a behemoth lying on the ground. My name is Pan. Not big guy. Pan was furious. He raised the axe beside him and hacked at the hazy figure. Pangu created the world. In fact, Pangu's name was Pan. Ancient, it meant great. Pangu's name came about because his descendants worshipped him and gave him this name. It represented their respect for Pan. Nuwa, I feel that this world is too boring. The sky is very high and the earth is very thick, but the living beings in this world are very boring. The hazy silhouette appeared in a beautiful ancient forest and spoke to a woman with a human head and a snake body. Nuwa was also a pre-world saint spirit. She was born before the world was created. You made Pan split open the world, but it wasn't stable. It caused the world to collapse. I had no choice but to use 5 colored stones to mend the sky and primal chaos stones to fill the earth. So you better behave and don't cause any more trouble for us. Nuwa said angrily. After the world was created, flowers, trees, and so on grew. It was full of life. It was a great fortune. The hazy figure said. Nuwa remained silent. She also liked the current world very much. Before, the world was hazy and white, as if it had become eternal. The pre-world saint spirits spent most of their time sleeping. Day after day. Year after year. Just like the old pre-world saint spirits, they grew old until they died. But after Pan created the world, the sky was high and the earth was thick. Flowers, trees, rivers, and mountains grew. Such a world was very beautiful. Many pre-world saint spirits no longer slept. Instead, they roamed the world. Nuwa, you have the ability to create living beings. I think you can create some living beings. The hazy silhouette said. Nuwa's eyes lit up. She was tempted. If there were only innate saint spirits in this world, it would be too lonely. If she could create some living beings, it would add a lot of color to this lonely world. No one knew how much time had passed. Era after era. Humans went from eating raw meat and drinking blood to building a complete cultivation system. Of course, this world didn't only have humans. There were also demons, devils, ghosts, monsters, and so on. There were all kinds of living beings. No one knew when the undying world appeared. This undying world was mysterious and powerful. Countless living beings yearned to enter the undying world, but they had no way to do so. Life is as lonely as snow. A handsome young man was walking in the starry sky. He secretly snuck out of his family. After his initial curiosity, he felt that it was very boring. You've disturbed my slumber. The overlord of the starry sky world, the archaic dragon-esque elephant, roared. Slap! The young man slapped the archaic dragon-esque elephant away. How can you say that? How rude! The young man glanced at the archaic dragon-esque elephant. The primordial dragon-esque elephant was depressed. It was the overlord that ruled over dozens of star fields, but it was sent flying with a slap. This made the primordial dragon-esque elephant extremely depressed. The archaic dragon-esque elephant pounced on the young man. You're too weak. Don't bother me. The young man slapped the archaic dragon-esque elephant again. The archaic dragon-esque elephant suffered the same fate as the first time. The young man slapped him away again. The archaic dragon-esque elephant wanted to cry. It knew it had met its match. It couldn't imagine how strong this person was. Life is as lonely as snow. The young man sighed again and turned to leave. The archaic dragon-esque elephant shouted. Sir, if you're bored, you can go to the legendary Undying World. Rumor has it that there are many experts there. The Undying World? The young man's eyes lit up. Under the archaic dragon-esque elephant's lead, the young man came to the Undying World. However, the Undying World was surrounded by the world crystal wall. No one could enter. The Undying World is too mysterious. It's difficult for us outsiders to enter, the archaic dragon-esque elephant said. Easy. The young man raised his right fist and punched a hole in the Undying World. Chapter 1159. The peerless demon lord, who was patrolling the Undying Realm, noticed that the Undying Realm had been destroyed. He hurried over and roared. Who are you? How dare you destroy the Undying Realm's world crystal wall? What's the big deal about the Undying Realm? In this universe, the 3 realms and 6 paths are the most respected. The undying realm is nothing, the young cultivator said nonchalantly. The 3 realms and 6 paths are legends. Don't talk nonsense here. The peerless demon lord sneered. The young man raised his eyelids and said, To you, it's a legend, but to me, it's my backyard. What shameless boasting! Today, I will suppress you. The peerless demon lord sneered. As one of the 72 great emperors of the undying realm, he had lived for countless years. His cultivation could be described as exceedingly high. He was only dealing with a young man. The peerless demon lord was confident that he could do it. Slap! The young man attacked. His move was very simple. He slapped out again and sent the peerless demon lord flying thousands of meters away. Bang! The peerless demon lord crashed into a mountain and collapsed it. The immemorial dragon-esque elephant walked in through the hole. When he saw this scene, he was almost scared to death. That was an unparalleled great emperor. He was actually sent flying just like that. How strong was that guy? Some of the cultivators who came with the peerless demon lord were already scared out of their wits. When had they ever seen such a ferocious existence? Now that they saw it, they were scared out of their wits. They all trembled in fear and knelt on the ground, their faces pale. Ah! The peerless demon lord roared and rushed out of the ruins with his emperor weapon. I will kill you! The peerless demon lord roared and activated his emperor weapon. The emperor weapon's power was simply world-destroying. The peerless demon lord combined with his emperor weapon could unleash the strongest power of the emperor weapon. Slap! The young man slapped the peerless demon lord again and sent him flying with his emperor weapon. There was a thump. Smoke and dust flew everywhere. The peerless demon lord fell to the ground. At this moment, the peerless demon lord's heart. How could there be such a terrifying person in this world? He was so young. How did he manage to cultivate such a powerful divine ability? He was a great emperor. With an emperor weapon. He couldn't even take one move. What was his cultivation? The peerless demon lord did not even have the courage to attack the high and mighty great emperor who looked down on the myriad worlds. But now, he felt how insignificant he was. It was as if he was an ant facing a giant dragon. The peerless Fey Lord had never felt so powerless before. He thought he was dead. However, to the peerless demon lord's surprise, the young man did not seem to have any intention of killing him. It seemed to disdain him. This made the peerless demon lord feel bitter. Adarch was high and mighty. But in front of that young man, great emperors weren't even qualified to be killed by him. This was a huge blow to the peerless demon lord. The young man asked, What treasures are there in the undying world? Peach trees, sky-reaching trees, ginseng fruits? The peerless demon lord didn't dare hide anything. The young man walked away. The immemorial dragon-esque elephant followed, and they soon disappeared. Next, the undying world, which had been peaceful for a long time, was shaken. Western Mother's territory. I want these peach trees, the young man said. Impudent! Take him down! The Queen Mother was furious. Whoosh! The young man blew out a breath of air, blowing everyone into the sky. Old witch, if you dare to stop me again, I'll flip your palace over. The Queen Mother was so angry that her face turned ashen, but she estimated her own strength. She wasn't confident she could defeat the young man. She hurried to the heavenly court to ask the celestial emperor for help. The young man ransacked the peach garden and uprooted the peach trees. When he left, he was surrounded by the celestial emperor and many other experts. You little kittens and puppies dare to stop me? The young man sent everyone flying with a single palm strike. That's impossible. The celestial emperor and the others couldn't believe it. They were the strongest in the undying world. How could they be sent flying with a single slap? But all of this was real. What treasures are there? Hand them over, and I'll spare your life. The young man looked at the celestial emperor. The Fusang tree! The celestial emperor gritted his teeth, but he didn't dare to resist, unless he didn't want to live. In the end, the celestial emperor handed over the Fusung tree. This was the resting place of the golden crow, and it was a water-type divine tree. After the creation of the world, it was the first divine tree to be born. The young man ransacked the undying world and left with the immemorial dragon-esque elephant. The undying world was penetrated, and powerful cultivators entered it one after another. Some of them even broke through to the great emperor realm. The undying realm was no longer an unreachable and inaccessible realm. Of course, it was not an easy task to enter the undying realm. The starfields around the undying world were extremely dangerous. The slightest carelessness could lead to death. Moreover, the entrance of the undying world was heavily guarded, and there were many strong cultivators. Even if one could pass through the starfields and reach the entrance of the undying world, many people were also killed by the strong cultivators of the undying world. Only a small number of abnormally powerful cultivators entered the undying world. Time passed. This heaven-defying race finally met with a calamity. Between heaven and earth, such a race was definitely not allowed to exist. Endless black fog surged over. It surrounded the land of this race. In fact, this race had always been very few in number. From before the creation of the world to the ancient times, such a long time had passed. Only a dozen people had appeared in total. When this calamity descended, several members of this clan were engaged in a great battle with an unknown existence. "Your race is out of control, so you should be wiped out." A cold voice came from the endless black fog. This battle caused heaven and earth to collapse, and the sun and moon lost their light. In the end, a rain of blood fell from the sky. And from then on, the sovereign race disappeared from the world. All the scenes came to an abrupt end. Lin Feng's mood couldn't calm down for a long time. This race. Too powerful. However, this race was destroyed in the end. What was it that destroyed this race? Something unbelievable must have happened in the past, but these were destined to become secrets, buried by time. Lin Feng was silent. His heart ached, and he was angry. But more than that, he felt powerless. It turned out that even the powerful ancestors of the sovereign race couldn't control fate. Fate! Fate! But soon, Lin Feng's heart surged with endless fighting spirit. If he didn't even have the fighting spirit, his life would be over, and it would be difficult for him to achieve great things. Even though he knew that in front of him was a bottomless abyss and a towering mountain. Lin Feng also rushed forward without hesitation. It was a bottomless abyss. He crossed the abyss. It was a towering mountain. He crossed the mountain. This was Lin Feng's character. He would never give up, and he would never retreat. Life will not rest, pass on, not broken, will go against time and return. Faintly, Lin Feng heard that ethereal voice again. As the voice fell, within his dantian, a drop of golden blood condensed and formed. Rumble! When the drop of golden blood formed in Lin Feng's body, lightning suddenly filled the sky above the island. A bolt of lightning as thick as a mountain fell from the sky, striking directly at Lin Feng. Lin Feng's body had formed the sovereign's blood. The heavenly Tao had formed a lightning tribulation to destroy Lin Feng. Even the heavenly Tao wouldn't allow such a heaven-defying character to be born. Chapter 1160. Bang! The real lightning tribulation had yet to descend, but the entire island had already been shattered by the terrifying pressure. It was hard to imagine how terrifying the lightning tribulation's power would be. Lin Feng went against the heavens, stepped on the void, and threw a punch at the mountain-like lightning tribulation. His fist was surrounded by the power of disaster. This was the art of great disaster. I am the embodiment of disaster. The lightning tribulation of the world can't hurt me. Low voices could be heard one after another. The lightning tribulation belonged to the power of disaster. As long as it was the power of disaster, it would be restrained by Lin Feng. This was the power of the art of great disaster. Bang! Lin Feng swung his right fist and punched out. His punch collided with the mountain-like lightning tribulation. This punch, it actually shattered the lightning tribulation. Ha ha ha, the art of great disaster is indeed a peerless technique. It can even break through the lightning tribulation. Tyrannical lightning art absorb. Lin Feng laughed, and then used the tyrannical lightning art to absorb the power of the lightning tribulation in the void. After the tyrannical lightning art absorbed the power of the lightning tribulation, it was immediately transformed into runes. All the runes were integrated into the divine ability array formed by the tyrannical lightning art. The divine ability array formed by the tyrannical lightning art was gradually being perfected. Rumble! Above the 9 heavens, an even more powerful lightning tribulation was brewing. The heavenly Tao didn't give up, and it still wanted to kill Lin Feng. The lightning tribulation descended from the heavens, destroying the world. The lightning tribulation condensed into an army, crushing the void and rushing toward Lin Feng. The void seemed to be on the verge of collapsing under the pressure of thousands of soldiers and horses. The destructive power of the lightning tribulation this time was far greater than the previous ones. The long river of disaster, crossing the past, present, and future. Heaven and earth are not destroyed, but disaster exists forever. Heaven and earth are destroyed, but disaster wreaks havoc. In this world, the power of disaster is eternal, and it will never disappear. The existence that blasphemes the Tao of great disaster will eventually be punished by the Tao of great disaster. Lin Feng continued to move forward in the void. Suddenly, a large river surged under his feet. This was the river of great disaster. It was a river formed by the great disaster spell. When the army formed by the lightning tribulation rushed over, they were instantly drowned by the long river of disaster. The second tribulation collapsed once again. Lin Feng continued to operate the Sky Tyrant lightning art, devouring the power of the lightning tribulation. Other cultivators would be scared half to death if they encountered the lightning tribulation. Even though he could withstand the lightning tribulation, he had to be extremely careful, as if he was facing a great enemy. But Lin Feng cultivated the great disaster art, and completely ignored the power of the lightning tribulation. Not only could it ignore the lightning tribulation, but it could even devour the power of the lightning tribulation. If other cultivators saw this, they would probably be scared to death. 36 consecutive lightning tribulations descended, but all of them were shattered by Lin Feng. As for the Sky Tyrant Thunder Incantation, after absorbing a large amount of thunder tribulation energy, it finally transformed from the perfection stage to the great perfection stage. Of all the techniques that Lin Feng had practiced, this was the first technique that had evolved to the level of great perfection. Above the divine ability grand array formed by the Sky Tyrant Thunder art, the phantom of the Thunder God appeared. While Lin Feng was communicating with the Thunder God opened its eyes. The Thunder God opened its eyes. As it blinked, endless power of lightning intertwined. I am the Thunder God, sovereign of the Thunder Tao, master of the Tao of Thunder. The Thunder God spoke. As if it had its own will, it spoke to Lin Feng from afar. This was the effect of a divine ability grand array. When a divine ability grand array reached grand array, not only would the power of the divine ability greatly increase, but it would also give the divine ability spirituality. The phantom of the Thunder God was the spirituality, condensed by the Sky Tyrant Thunder art. Once the divine ability gained spirituality, it would be able to continuously cultivate, on its own day and night. It would continuously increase the power of the divine ability. Lin Feng wouldn't even need to cultivate the Sky Tyrant Thunder art in the future, because the spirituality produced by the Sky Tyrant Thunder art would cultivate on its own. This would save Lin Feng a lot of time. At the same time, the Sky Tyrant Thunder art's power would continuously increase. Break! After the Sky Tyrant Thunder art reached grand array, Lin Feng soared into the sky. He summoned the River of Calamity, and directly tore apart the sea of lightning in the sky. The lightning tribulation cannot harm me. The heavenly Tao cannot erase me, shouted Lin Feng furiously. He raised his fist and punched the ocean of thunder and lightning, breaking it apart. He had awakened his first drop of sovereign blood. The Sky Tyrant lightning art had also been cultivated to the Great Circle. Lin Feng was in a very good mood. He flew outside. There was no need to continue staying in Star Sif Lake. 3 days later, Lin Feng went to a trading area. There were many people coming and going here. Many people were selling things they didn't need. However, most of them were bartering. Many cultivators were gathered next to a stall. The stall owner was selling a hurricane pearl. The hurricane pearl was very similar to the water avoidance pearl. With the water repellent pearl, even an ordinary person could swim freely in the water without drowning. And with the hurricane pearl, no matter what kind of terrifying storm one encountered, it would be able to resolve it. It was said that even the space-time storms in the outer realms could be easily resolved. This was definitely a top-tier treasure. Many cultivators wanted it, but they couldn't afford it. "What's the deal?" Lin Feng asked. "I want a divine artifact or an immortal medicine of immortality," the cultivator said. This person was clearly asking for an exorbitant price. The hurricane pearl was precious, but how could it compare to a divine artifact or an immortal medicine of immortality? "A top-tier Dao artifact, the dragon's sword. I'll trade with you." Lin Feng took out a treasured sword. He had killed many experts recently and collected dozens of Dao artifacts. There were also a few powerful top-tier Dao artifacts. However, Lin Feng had no use for them. "This is a hurricane pearl, an extremely rare treasure. It should be worth at least a demigod artifact, right?" the cultivator said. Lin Feng said, "The hurricane pearl is rare, but it's only useful when you encounter wind-type spirit techniques or space-time storms. You definitely won't lose out on a top-tier Dao artifact. If you don't want to trade, then forget it." Lin Feng pretended to leave. "Wait. Just trade," the cultivator said. Lin Feng made the trade and put the hurricane pearl away. When Lin Feng returned from the star trial, he had been attacked by an astral beast and was swallowed by a space-time storm. He had almost died tragically. If he had a treasure like the hurricane pearl, he wouldn't have been so severely injured. Therefore, it was better to have a hurricane pearl on him. Moreover, with the hurricane pearl, he could suppress all wind-type spirit techniques in the future. If he fought against wind-type spirit techniques in the future, his opponent would be completely suppressed. Therefore, it was necessary to have a hurricane pearl on him. Lin Feng walked into the distance. Suddenly, he froze. In front of him was a beautiful and enchanting woman. "It's her!" Lin Feng was shocked. He had never thought that he would meet this woman here. Chapter 1161. This woman's figure was enchanting, and her face was extremely beautiful. She had long and slender legs, full peaks, and a small waist. Her figure was perfectly proportioned, and coupled with her enchanting face, she was truly a peerless beauty. Such a woman would be the center of attention no matter where she went. In the trading area, countless cultivators looked at this seductive woman with burning eyes. Wu Qingqing, it was actually this woman. Many things had happened between Lin Feng and Wu Qingqing. Wu Qingqing was a disciple of the Gu evil sect. The Gu evil sect was an evil sect that was good at rearing all kinds of poisonous creatures. Back then, they had explored a dangerous place in the Thunderblade's secret realm together. All of them had been swallowed by 12 strange stone doors. Lin Feng and Wu Qingqing had been swallowed by the 11th stone door at the same time. They had joined forces to kill the remnant soul of the god fiend inside the stone door. However, Wu Qingqing wanted to take the treasures for herself. She had tried to sneak an attack on Lin Feng. However, she had been captured by Lin Feng. Later on, Lin Feng had enjoyed Wu Qingqing's beautiful body. This was his usual style of doing things. Lin Feng did not kill beautiful women. Instead, he punished them in another way. Lin Feng had always thought that beautiful women were the masterpieces of the heavens. How could he kill them? That would be too much of a waste of resources. Therefore, Lin Feng preferred to have a taste of them before sparing their lives. Although it had been many years, he could not help but recall the scene when he saw Wu Qingqing again. Lin Feng quickly retracted his gaze. Wu Qingqing did not see him. Lin Feng also did not have the intention to greet her. If Wu Qingqing saw him, he was afraid that he would be in trouble. This woman would not let go of him who had taken away her chastity. Lin Feng flew into the distance. He was now planning to head to the deepest place. It was said that there were 72 heavenly pillars of blessings, which were connected to the heavens and the earth. Some people called them the supreme pillars. Cultivators who could occupy a pillar could be called the supreme heaven's pride. Many people would fight for the supreme pillars because they would receive great benefits and blessings. That night, Lin Feng was resting in the forest. Late at night, it was pitch black. Lin Feng heard rustling sounds from afar. Soon, a woman flew over. What surprised Lin Feng was that it was Wu Qingqing. Wu Qingqing looked a little flustered, as if she was trying to avoid being tracked by someone. She looked back from time to time and jumped onto a big tree. Just as she jumped onto the tree, Wu Qingqing realized that something was wrong. There was another person here, but she didn't sense this person's aura. Wu Qingqing's expression changed abruptly. She sent a palm strike at the cultivator on the tree branch, but to her horror, her attack was easily broken. Then, her body was squeezed against the tree trunk and her hands were grabbed. Wu Qingqing could even feel the waves of her breasts being tightly pressed against her opponent's chest. The feeling was so clear. This made Wu Qingqing both embarrassed and angry. She gnashed her teeth in hatred, and killing intent rose in her heart. She was about to release some of the poison on her body to deal with the cultivator who was holding her down. Suddenly, a familiar voice sounded. "After not seeing you for so many years, you're still so ruthless. You're the one who trespassed on someone's resting place, yet you want to take their life. Do all evil cultivators view human lives as worthless?" Wu Qingqing would never forget this voice. It had been branded in her mind for a long time. She thought of how Lin Feng had robbed her in the stone room. Every time she thought of that scene, Wu Qingqing wanted nothing more than to cut Lin Feng into pieces. But sometimes, Wu Qingqing realized that her killing intent towards Lin Feng seemed to have faded. As time passed, her killing intent seemed to have completely disappeared. It was replaced by an indescribable emotion. Women were sentimental by nature. For the man who had taken their first time, a woman's feelings were even more complicated. Wu Qingqing didn't expect to meet Lin Feng here. She said coldly, "Let go of me! Looks like you can tell who I am," Lin Feng said with a faint smile. "I'm not blind. Not only can I hear, but I can also see," Wu Qingqing said unhappily. Although a cultivator's vision would be greatly reduced at night, Lin Feng and Wu Qingqing were very close to each other, so it wasn't strange for her to be able to see Lin Feng's face clearly. Lin Feng let go of Wu Qingqing and said, "It's been so many years. How have you been?" Wu Qingqing said coldly, "Thanks to you, I've been working hard all these years to increase my strength. I've been hoping that one day, I'll be able to see you and cut you into pieces to repay you for the humiliation you brought me that day." Lin Feng said, "You're lying." He looked at Wu Qingqing and said, "I don't feel any killing intent from you." Lin Feng stretched out his hand and caressed Wu Qingqing's beautiful face, but Wu Qingqing moved away. "Don't touch me. Show some respect," Wu Qingqing said coldly. "Sure. Someone's coming." Lin Feng made a shushing gesture. Soon, dozens of figures rushed over from afar. They stopped not far from the tree. Wu Qingqing covered her rosy lips, not even daring to let herself breathe. She was obviously nervous and afraid. "Did you find it?" the leading cultivator said in a deep voice. "Sir, we searched everywhere but couldn't find it," one of the cultivators said. "It can't escape. It must still be in this area. Continue searching," the leading cultivator said in a deep voice. "Aren't they the people from Mount Blood Demon?" Lin Feng frowned slightly. He recognized the leader of the cultivators. When Lin Feng and a group of cultivators entered Star Lake, they saw two groups of cultivators fighting. One of the groups of cultivators was from Mount Blood Demon. After the people from Mount Blood Demon killed the cultivators they had surrounded, they chased after Lin Feng and the others. Mount Blood Demon was one of the three great demonic forces and was extremely evil. After entering the battlefield of geniuses, these people were unscrupulous and killed people to steal their treasures. Lin Feng didn't expect that the people from Mount Blood Demon would target Wu Qingqing. He guessed that Wu Qingqing might have something on her that had piqued the interest of these people from Mount Blood Devil. Otherwise, these cultivators from Mount Blood Devil would not have mobilized so many people to search for her. The cultivators from Mount Blood Demon didn't stay and quickly left. Wu Qingqing heaved a sigh of relief when she saw the cultivators from Mount Blood Demon leave. Why are the people from Mount Blood Demon targeting you? Lin Feng looked at Wu Qingqing and asked. Wu Qingqing snorted and said, It's none of your business. Then, she kicked Lin Feng and dashed into the distance, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Lin Feng couldn't help but smile bitterly as he watched Wu Qingqing leave. Chapter 1162. Wu Qingqing was holding a sheepskin scroll in her hand. There were 4 words written on it. Heartless Palace. The Heartless Palace was very famous among the evil sections. It was said that it was the palace where the Heartless Immortal lived. The Heartless Immortal was an extraordinary person. She was a famous expert in the ancient times. When she was young, her beauty was unparalleled. However, it was said that she was seriously hurt by love. Because of the emotional setback, she was greatly affected and changed her name to the Heartless Immortal. She had not cultivated for long, but her cultivation was extremely heaven-defying. She had reached the heavenly god realm before she was 300 years old. She could be said to be a cultivation genius that only appeared once in 10,000 years. However, the Heartless Immortal could not walk out of her feelings. When she was trying to break through to the giant god realm, her inner demons invaded and ruined her efforts. She also suffered a serious Tao injury. The Heartless Immortal knew that she did not have long to live. One night she mysteriously disappeared. What disappeared with her was her Heartless Palace. Later, news spread that the Heartless Immortal had passed away in the Heartless Palace. She was a heavenly goddess, a peerless beauty, and a goddess in the hearts of countless people. Her short and sad life ended just like that. Back then, there were many geniuses who pursued the Heartless Immortal. After hearing the news of her death, a few geniuses even chose to become monks and accompany the Heartless Immortal. One could see how charming the Heartless Immortal was back then. Obviously, the sheepskin scroll in Wu Qingqing's hand should be the location of the Heartless Palace. This sheepskin scroll was personally given to Wu Qingqing by the Gu Evil Sect Master. Wu Qingqing and a dozen of her fellow disciples planned to search for the Heartless Palace together. However, the news was leaked. Wu Qingqing and the others were besieged by the cultivators of Mount Blood Demon. Her fellow disciples were killed by the cultivators of Mount Blood Demon. Only Wu Qingqing managed to escape. Wu Qingqing entered a very dense forest. The place was gloomy, and there were many powerful ferocious beasts roaming about. It was extremely dangerous. Wu Qingqing encountered more than a dozen ferocious beasts along the way. She narrowly escaped death and finally arrived at the depths of the ancient forest. This should be the place, right? Wu Qingqing looked at the contents of the sheepskin scroll. There was a map of the route and a written description. It was very detailed. She confirmed again and finally confirmed that this was the place she was looking for. According to the scroll, there is a forbidden spell protecting the Hall of Heartless. If you want the Hall of Heartless to appear, you have to break the forbidden spell. Wu Qingqing looked at the content. She was a spiritual array master, and had now broken through to an Earth rank advanced spiritual array master. Wu Qingqing could be considered a genius when it came to spirit array masters. She carefully studied the formation breaking technique recorded on the sheepskin scroll. It was written that there were 12 formation eyes in the restriction. Pull out the formation flag from each of the 12 formation eyes. The restriction would be broken. However, not only were there illusory formations around the 12 formation cores, there were also killing formations. It was not easy to reach the eye of the array and pull out the array flag. The only fortunate thing was that the sheepskin scroll recorded the method to pass through the illusory formation and the killing formation. It might be difficult for ordinary people to understand these complicated methods, but as an Earth rank advanced spiritual array master, Wu Qingqing could understand them. She followed the instructions on the sheepskin scroll and walked towards the location of the first formation eye. Wu Qingqing was very careful because one wrong step would activate the illusory formation and the ultimate killing formation. At that time, she would only have a dead end. Wu Qingqing walked back and forth for half an hour. It was only a distance of 12 meters, but Wu Qingqing walked back and forth. She came to a bluestone and moved it away. Then she dug out the soil below. After digging about 12 centimeters deep, Wu Qingqing saw a palm-sized green formation flag. She quickly took it out. Only then did Wu Qingqing let out a sigh of relief. After successfully taking out the first formation flag, Wu Qingqing gained some experience and her confidence increased a lot. After resting for a while, she walked toward the second formation flag. As time went by, Wu Qingqing found the formation flags one by one and pulled them out. When all the formation flags were pulled out, a loud rumbling sound was heard. The restrictions in the surroundings began to dissipate. Not long after, a huge palace appeared in her sight. The palace was 300 meters tall and was built with gold and jade. There was a huge plaque on top of it. On top of the plaque, there were 4 large words, Heartless Palace. It should have been called the Yuqing Immortal Palace, but now it has become the Heartless Palace. The word love has caused a lot of harm. Wu Qingqing thought of some rumors about the Heartless Immortal Lady and sighed. The Heartless Immortal Lady's name was Yuqing. She was a goddess in the hearts of countless people. She was called a fairy. However, after her relationship was thwarted, she became heartless to men. She seemed to no longer believe in men. It could be said that it was a tragedy. Wu Qingqing couldn't help but sigh. TSK, I didn't expect junior sister Wu to sigh about the relationship between men and women. Is this still the vicious Wu Qingqing I know? A faint laugh was heard. Then, nearly 100 figures flew out of the forest. Wu Qingqing's face turned pale when she saw the densely packed cultivators. These people were the experts from Mount Blood Demon who had chased after her. Now they had caught up with her. Wu Qingqing despaired. Her strength was nothing in front of these cultivators from Mount Blood Demon. Wu Qingqing looked at the cultivator who had just spoken with resentment. Li Chao, you were the one who betrayed us. The cultivator called Li Chao was originally from the same sect as Wu Qingqing. They had come out to train together, but he had been injured and had stayed in a cave to recuperate. Wu Qingqing didn't expect Li Chao to be a spy. Betrayed us? I was originally a disciple of Mount Blood Demon. The major forces would send their disciples to infiltrate each other's sects to steal information or divine abilities. I'm sure you know this. I'm afraid there are also Gu evil sect's disciples in Mount Blood Demon. The cultivator called Li Chao sneered. Alright, don't waste your breath on her. Just kill her. The leader of the cultivators was called Lu Ju, and he sneered. Junior sister Wu Qingqing, I'm sorry. You've completed your mission. You can die now. Li Chao leaped out and instantly arrived beside Wu Qingqing. His body emitted waves of destructive energy. This person was actually at the 8th firmament of the creation realm. Wu Qingqing was only at the 9th firmament of the yin-yang realm. Compared to Li Chao, she was too weak. You were hiding your strength? Wu Qingqing's face was pale and filled with despair. Li Chao sneered and said, Yes. Junior sister Wu Qingqing, you can take this secret of mine to hell with you. As soon as he finished speaking, his palm had already struck down. Wu Qingqing was shocked to find that she couldn't move at all. Although her cultivation was considered an expert, she was still too weak compared to Li Chao. Just when Wu Qingqing thought that she was going to die, she suddenly saw the space in front of her tremble. A man with shoulder-length black hair stepped out of the void. He lightly pointed at Li Chao. A golden finger of energy condensed into a golden finger. Pooh! The golden energy finger instantly pierced through Li Chao's head. Li Chao's body flew out and fell to the ground. He was already dead. A new week, looking for monthly votes. Recommendation votes. Reward me. Old man to thanks. Chapter 1163. Seeing that Li Chao had been killed, the faces of the cultivators from Mount Blood Devil turned gloomy. Their leader, Lu Qi, had a cold, murderous look in his eyes. It's you! Lu Qi's gaze was gloomy. He recognized Lin Feng. Back at Star Lake, they had chased after Lin Feng and the others. Lin Feng was extremely fast. In a short time, he had disappeared without a trace. Therefore, Lu Qi still remembered him. You have a good memory, Lin Feng said indifferently. When Lu Qi saw how indifferent Lin Feng was, he was furious. He smiled icily and said, There was a path to heaven, but you didn't take it. There was no gate to hell, but you chose to come here. You escaped from Xingluo Lake, and now you want to die. Since it's that way, I'll kill you and Wu Qingqing today. You want to deal with me with small fries like you? Lin Feng couldn't help but twitch his mouth. Brat, you're too arrogant. Kill him, Lu Qi ordered. Yes, my lord. Immediately, more than 20 experts from Mount Blood Demon flew out. Boom, 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 powerful waves of energy swept out. Magic power surged like a surging river. These cultivators from Mount Blood Devil were all experts. They were at least at the 7th stage of the creation realm and were not weaker than Li Chao, who had been killed by Lin Feng. Mount Blood Devil was one of the 3 major forces of the Devil Dao. It was an evil force that ruled over many forces of the Devil Dao. The cultivators they cultivated naturally had a high cultivation. The attacks of more than 20 people gathered together and formed a long river of attacks that flooded towards Lin Feng. With so many experts attacking together, even an ancient powerhouse would have to avoid them. Lin Feng, be careful! Wu Qingqing exclaimed. Wu Qingqing couldn't help but gasp. She was worried about Lin Feng. There were so many strong cultivators attacking at the same time. Even if Lin Feng was strong enough to compete with the strongest cultivators in the history of the world, he couldn't do much against so many strong cultivators. Seeing that Lin Feng didn't dodge, Wu Qingqing became anxious. However, what happened in the next moment shocked Wu Qingqing to the core. Facing the attacking river, Lin Feng waved his hand and punched the void. Bang! He shattered the attacking river with a single punch. The combined attacks of over 20 powerhouses were actually unable to harm him in the slightest. How is this possible? Wu Qingqing cried out in surprise. Her pink lips parted slightly, and her jade-like hand covered her alluring pink lips due to shock. The strength that Lin Feng displayed completely shocked Wu Qingqing. Wu Qingqing still remembered clearly that although Lin Feng was more powerful than her in the Thunderblade secret realm, he only had a slight advantage over her. It had only been 5 years, and Lin Feng had already become so tyrannical. Clearly, Lin Feng's battle strength was not as simple as initial level life and death realm. He was able to shatter the attacks of 20 experts with a single punch. His cultivation base should be at the middle level of life and death realm at the very least. This was too shocking. Could it be that Lin Feng had already reached the supreme genius level? After entering the Prodigy Arena, Wu Qingqing met up with her fellow sect members to search for the Heartless Palace. Therefore, she didn't know what had happened in the Prodigy Arena. Of course, even if she knew that a genius named Lin Feng had stepped on Murong Tianshan and ascended to the Prodigy Arena, Wu Qingqing wouldn't necessarily think that it was the Lin Feng she knew. After all, there were too many people with the same name in this world. It's my turn to attack! Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. He took a step forward and slashed out with Sky Splitter. A dazzling saber light condensed and instantly pierced through the void. Retreat! The cultivators from Mount Blood Demon felt the power of the saber light, and their expressions changed drastically. They hurriedly retreated, and at the same time, took out their defensive treasures to block Lin Feng's attack. However, it was useless. Lin Feng was no longer the same as before. He had awakened his sovereign bloodline. A sovereign's power had condensed in his body. His cultivation had increased by at least 10 times. Unless it was a rebirth realm powerhouse, no one could suppress Lin Feng. These cultivators couldn't even withstand a single blow from Lin Feng. Asterisk puff, asterisk first, the treasures were torn apart by the saber light as if they were tofu. Then, the experts from Mount Blood Demon were instantly killed by the saber light. They couldn't resist Lin Feng's attack at all. Lu Qi was furious when he saw more than 20 experts from Mount Blood Demon being killed. He coldly shouted, "Attack together and kill him!" There were still 60 to 70 experts on Mount Blood Demon's side. Lu Qi's battle strength was equivalent to the 9th or even 10th stage of the life and death realm. Besides Lu Qi, there were 2 other experts on Mount Blood Demon's side. One of them was called Nangong Di, and the other was called Nailan Mu. Both of them were at the 2nd stage of the life and death realm. However, they had amazing talent, so their battle strength was roughly equivalent to that of an ordinary cultivator at the 7th stage of the life and death realm. They were also people who could challenge people of a higher realm. Lu Qi, Nangong Di, and Nailan Mu were the main attackers, while the others cooperated with them to attack Lin Feng. "Lin Feng, Lu Qi, Nangong Di, and Nailan Mu are too strong. Don't fight them head-on. Let's run," Wu Qingqing said with a pale face. She was a disciple of an evil faction, so she had a good understanding of the cultivators from Mount Blood Demon. It was because of this understanding that she knew how terrifying they were. In Wu Qingqing's opinion, Lin Feng was strong enough to become a supreme genius at such a young age. However, even a supreme genius would have to avoid Lu Qi, Nangong Di, and Nailan Mu. Back then, the 3 of them were almost as talented as the supreme prodigies. Furthermore, all 3 of them were cultivators who had cultivated for more than 100 years. Lin Feng was only 26 years old this year. Even if he started cultivating at the age of 6, he had only cultivated for 20 years. Sometimes, a large age gap was a disadvantage. Therefore, in Wu Qingqing's opinion, even supreme geniuses would be at a disadvantage when facing Lu Qi, Nangong Di, and Nailan Mu. Moreover, there were 60 to 70 experts supporting them. "It's fine. I can kill these people with a wave of my hand." Lin Feng looked indifferent. If he hadn't awakened his sovereign bloodline, Lin Feng would have to avoid facing so many experts. However, Lin Feng was no longer the same as before. He didn't care about these people at all. "Shameless boasting. Go to hell," Lu Qi and the others sneered. The 3 of them attacked first. Demonic blood palm. A sea of blood. Demons wreaked havoc. The 3 experts gathered their powerful divine abilities and attacked. Next, the other 60 to 70 people also gathered their divine abilities and attacked Lin Feng. So many experts attacked at the same time. They gathered together. Even the void was torn apart. From this, it could be seen just how terrifyingly powerful this attack was. Wu Qingqing, who was standing in the distance, was shocked when she sensed the divine abilities gathered together. She felt like her soul was trembling. However, Lin Feng couldn't believe it. She saw Lin Feng's hands forming a seal. Divine light surrounded him. Lu Qi and the other 60 to 70 experts attacked together, but they were instantly sealed. Their attacks turned into a ball of energy that floated above Lin Feng's right hand. The void around the ball of energy started to distort. Everybody was looking at Lin Feng in astonishment. Lin Feng's eyes were filled with astonishment. Everybody was looking at him. Was he still human? In the blink of an eye, he had sealed the attacks of 60 to 70 experts. Chapter 1164. The ball of energy spun in Lin Feng's palm. All the cultivators of Mount Blood Demon retreated step by step, their faces full of fear. They were scared out of their wits by Lin Feng. How powerful was the attack of so many people? However, it was sealed by Lin Feng so easily. It was too unbelievable. When Wu Qingqing looked at Lin Feng, her beautiful eyes were full of splendor. Lin Feng's strength was not only beyond her expectations, but also made her heart beat faster. As time passed, Wu Qingqing had developed a complicated feeling for Lin Feng. After all, Lin Feng was Wu Qingqing's first and only man. Even though Wu Qingqing didn't want to think about what she had done with Lin Feng in the stone room, many nights when she was alone, she couldn't help but think about it. At first, she hated Lin Feng, but later on, she couldn't help but think about it. In fact, whether it was a man or a woman, there was a law. If she still maintained her virginity, then she would be a virgin. Therefore, their tolerance towards the matters between men and women was relatively high. If they tasted the forbidden fruit, then their tolerance towards the matters between men and women would be greatly reduced. Their tolerance would decrease. In his mind, he would often let his imagination run wild. This was a very normal thing. Perhaps it was because of these wanderings that Wu Qingqing had developed a complicated feeling for Lin Feng. Now that she saw how powerful Lin Feng was, there seemed to be some joy in these complicated feelings. Subconsciously, Wu Qingqing seemed to think that since she had done that with Lin Feng, then she might have a deeper relationship with Lin Feng in the future. Seeing how powerful Lin Feng was, Wu Qingqing was naturally happy. "Run!" Lu Qi shouted in a deep voice. No matter how arrogant Lu Qi was, he now knew that Lin Feng wasn't someone they could provoke. How could he still have the courage to continue fighting with Lin Feng? The group turned around and was about to escape. At this moment, Lin Feng threw out the sealed torrent of attacks. Bang! The torrent of attacks landed in the crowd and exploded. Following that, miserable screams rang out incessantly. One cultivator after another was faked to death. Ordinary cultivators were naturally unable to withstand the powerful destructive force produced by the torrent of attacks. The casualties could be said to be extremely heavy. Of the 60 to 70 people, only 20 or so managed to survive, but all of them were injured. 9 steps of death. Lin Feng stepped forward in the void, and waves of death ripples swept out. Puff! Puff! The bodies of the Mount Blood Devil cultivators exploded one after another. In the blink of an eye, only Lu Qi, Nan Gongdi, and Nailin Mu were left. "Do you really want to kill them all? If you kill us, you'll become an enemy of Mount Blood Demon. Mount Blood Demon won't let you off." Nan Gongdi's face was pale as he shouted threateningly. Lin Feng raised his eyelids and said, "Isn't it already an irreconcilable hatred?" Nan Gongdi said, "Of course not. The people you killed just now can't be considered core cultivators of Mount Blood Demon. The 3 of us are core cultivators of Mount Blood Demon. If you let us go, there's still a chance for things to turn around. With your cultivation, you can indeed become core cultivators of Mount Blood Demon." Lin Feng nodded. Nan Gongdi couldn't help but look happy as he said, "It seems like you're very sensible. Don't worry, after the 3 of us leave, we won't be enemies with you in the future." Nan Gongdi had a smile on his face, as if he really wanted to bury the hatchet with Lin Feng. In reality, Nan Gongdi wanted nothing more than to cut Lin Feng into 1,000 pieces. He sneered in his heart, and his killing intent was dense. "Brat, when we get out of here, we'll immediately find a few peerless experts of Mount Blood Demon to surround and kill you. When the time comes, you'll die without a grave." Lu Qi and Nailin Mu had the same thoughts as Nan Gongdi, but they were trying their best to restrain their killing intent. Mount Blood Demon. A demon called the Blood Abyss Old Demon massacred 1.2 billion innocent people and devoured their souls for the sake of cultivating his demonic arts. There's also a demon called the Dark Blood Demon who sacrificed all the people in 12 cities for the sake of cultivating his demonic arts. The number of people killed reached 700 million. There are too many examples like this. You cultivators of Mount Blood Demon willfully slaughter the innocent. None of you are good people. So, do you think I'll believe your nonsense?" Lin Feng sneered. Swish! A dazzling saber light flashed. He used Sky Split and slashed at Nan Gongdi. "You dare kill me?" Nan Gongdi roared as he dodged Lin Feng's attack. "Why wouldn't I dare?" Lin Feng's expression was cold. The blade light from Sky Split had already descended. Nan Gongdi saw that he couldn't dodge, so he hurriedly used a divine ability to block. As he condensed a divine ability, he shouted, "Senior brother Lu Qi! Junior brother Nailin Mu! Give me a hand!" However, Lu Qi and Nailin Mu didn't care about Nan Gongdi's life or death. Most demonic cultivators were selfish. Their relationship with each other was very thin. The 2 of them fled into the distance. Pfft! A moment later, Nan Gongdi was killed. "You can't escape." Lin Feng's expression was cold as he chased after Lu Qi and Nalin Mu. It was too difficult for them to compete with Lin Feng. They saw Lin Feng chasing after them. Lu Qi and Nalin Mu's expressions turned ugly. Lu Qi's eyes turned slightly, and he pointed to the right. He exclaimed, "Junior brother Nalin, look! It's our senior brother Tai Wuxia." Cultivators determined seniority based on their cultivation level. Tai Wuxia was a supreme genius of Mount Blood Demon. Although he was young, his cultivation level was heaven-defying. Hearing Lu Qi's words, Nalin Mu's face lit up. If Tai Wuxia was here, they could definitely kill Lin Feng if they worked together. Nalin Mu turned his head, but the direction Lu Qi had pointed to was empty. Where was Tai Wuxia? Oh no! Nalin Mu wasn't stupid. After realizing that he had been tricked by Lu Qi, he knew that he was in trouble. He wanted to quickly move to the left, but it was too late. Lu Qi's palm landed on Nalin Mu's head. With a bang, Nalin Mu's head exploded, and he died on the spot. Lu Qi wrapped Nalin Mu's body with his magic power and flew towards Lin Feng. Nalin Mu's body began to expand. Lu Qi was obviously going to self-destruct. Nalin Mu was a life and death realm cultivator. If he self-destructed, the damage would be too terrifying. Lin Feng's expression changed slightly, and he quickly retreated. Bang! In the next moment, Nalin Mu's body self-destructed. The terrifying energy swept through the world, and the forest within a dozen miles was completely destroyed. Chapter 1165. The energy dissipated. Lin Feng frowned slightly. Lu Qi had disappeared without a trace. Clearly, he had taken advantage of the opportunity to escape. That person was truly ruthless. He had even killed his own junior brother so that he could escape. Lin Feng went to Wu Qingqing's side and asked in concern, "Are you all right?" Wu Qingqing replied, "I'm fine." She then looked at Lin Feng with a complicated expression. "That's good." Lin Feng nodded. After a pause, he said, "Let's go to the palace and take a look." Wu Qingqing did not say anything. She lowered her head and walked into the palace. Lin Feng followed behind her. Suddenly, Wu Qingqing asked, "Why are you here?" Lin Feng said unhappily, "Why else? I'm worried about your safety, of course, so I followed you here. If I didn't come, wouldn't you have died?" Wu Qingqing's heart was filled with sweetness, but she maintained a cold expression on her face. She snorted and said, "Who cares about your concern?" Lin Feng said, "It's your business if you don't care. As for what I do, that's my business as well." Humph! Wu Qingqing snorted twice before turning around and continuing to walk into the palace. Her footsteps seemed much lighter than before. The two of them arrived at the entrance of Heartless Palace. Lin Feng pushed open the huge golden door a little, and the two of them entered. Many things were neatly arranged in the palace. Even though countless years had passed, everything still looked as good as new. This was because the palace was covered in cleansing runes, which allowed the palace to remain clean and tidy. The decorations in the first palace were relatively simple. It looked more like a training ground. There was a statue of a woman in the center. The woman was tall and had a beautiful face. She had an indescribable charm about her. She could be considered a peerless beauty. "Is this the Heartless Immortal?" Lin Feng rubbed his chin and asked. Wu Qingqing nodded and said, "Yes, it's a statue of the Heartless Immortal. However, look at the expression on the statue's face. It's filled with love." Back then, the Heartless Immortal was still called Fairy Yuqing. Lin Feng nodded. The Heartless Immortal had changed her name because she had been seriously hurt by love. "Hey, look! The Heartless Immortal is holding a scroll." Lin Feng was shocked. He took the scroll off the statue. He opened it. The scroll shone brightly with golden light, and within the golden light, some images appeared. A handsome man with black hair that reached his shoulders and eyes that were like stars stood in front of a study table. A beautiful woman in snow-white clothes was grinding for him. Calm. Jade incense, burner incense. Red candles. Thin eyebrows, hazy temples, long nights, cold pillows. Under the parasol tree, it rained in the middle of the night. No one knew that Li Qing was suffering. Leave. Qing'er, I'm going on a long journey. I wrote this poem for you, the man in white clothes said gently. Fairy Yu Qing looked at the poem and murmured, My heart is broken when I don't see you for a day. I'll come back as soon as possible. The white-robed man held Fairy Yu Qing's hand gently. All the images disappeared. A poem appeared on the scroll. It was the poem that the man in white clothes had written. This man is as handsome as jade. He's really born with a good appearance. Lin Feng sighed. No wonder Fairy Yu Qing can't get over it. It seems that she loves that man a lot. There are no good men in the world. Before they have a woman, they'll say sweet things to her. They're afraid that she'll fall or melt. But once they have a woman, they'll throw her away like a pair of worn-out shoes. Even though that man looks good, he has a human face and a beast's heart. Wu Qingqing didn't know where all her anger came from. She sneered at Lin Feng, as if Lin Feng was the one who broke her heart. She walked towards the palace with her long, straight legs that could cause one's imagination to run wild. There was a spiritual array room, alchemy room, and the magical ability pavilion. What made Lin Feng depressed was that there weren't any divine pills left in the alchemy room. Perhaps the refined pills were all carried by the heartless celestial maiden? There were many spiritual array scrolls in the spiritual array room. Lin Feng organized them and took half each with Wu Qingqing. There were dozens of scrolls of various abilities in the magical ability pavilion. The most valuable ones were the 6 immemorial abilities. They were the Divine Finger, the Burning Sky Technique, the Buddha's Fury Thousand Wave Cut, the Revolving Stars Technique, the Galaxy Destruction Fist, and the Raging Waves Sword Technique. The value of any one of the immemorial abilities was unimaginable, let alone 6 of them. What made Lin Feng the happiest was that among the 6 skills, there was a sword skill called the Raging Waves Sword Technique. This was the first immemorial sword-type immemorial ability that Lin Feng had obtained. Lin Feng made a copy of each of the 6 immemorial abilities and gave it to Wu Qingqing. The two continued to walk deeper into the palace. They arrived at the deepest part of the palace. The door to the palace was closed. Lin Feng tried to open it, but he couldn't. Could it be that the heartless fairy passed away here? Lin Feng muttered. He and Wu Qingqing worked together to open the door. The two entered and saw a dressing table, a jade bed, a desk, a bookshelf, and many other things. However, they didn't see the heartless fairy's corpse. However, if a cultivator passed away, they would turn into ashes and not leave behind a corpse. Since the heartless fairy had suffered a Dao injury, she must have died. Lin Feng checked the books on the desk and bookshelf, but he didn't find anything particularly precious. However, he saw 2 lines of beautiful and delicate words on the desk. Lovesickness is without reason. Tears not to flowers, not to tears. These 2 lines contained the longing for the lover in the heart, and the pain after the lover left. It seemed that the heartless fairy didn't stop until she died. She wasn't heartless. She couldn't forget that he had appeared in her life. He had loved her deeply. She had also loved him deeply. However, the end result was a tragedy. Because that man had heartlessly abandoned her. It's a pity that we couldn't leave behind the heartless fairy's storage ring, Wu Qingqing said. It's not a pity. We have 6 immemorial abilities. Any one of them is enough to cause a storm of blood in the Tianwu continent, let alone 6, Lin Feng said. After a short pause, he continued. We can't stay here for long. Let's go. Wu Qingqing nodded and left the palace with Lin Feng. After leaving the palace, Wu Qingqing put the 12 formation flags back in their places and activated the formation again. The Heartless Palace was sealed by the formation. If we don't have a map, we won't be able to enter, Wu Qingqing murmured. Whispered Wu Qingqing. She then destroyed the scroll and left with Lin Feng. Chapter 1166. It was currently night, and the forest was pitch black. The roars of beasts could be heard from time to time. The depths of the forest were extremely dangerous at night, as there were many powerful beasts roaming about. Lin Feng and Wu Qingqing found a dry cave, and Lin Feng started a bonfire. The cave was illuminated and warmed up. "Does your Gu evil sect have anything to do with this Mount Blood Demon?" Lin Feng asked. He suddenly remembered that the Gu evil sect was both righteous and evil, and Wu Qingqing was definitely a ruthless woman. "Both the demonic and evil sects are related," said Wu Qingqing. She then frowned and continued. "However, the Gu evil sect and Mount Blood Demon shouldn't be too close. Our Gu evil sect is closer to the sacred Devil Hall." Lin Feng nodded and said, "In the future we have to be careful of the people from Mount Blood Demon." Wu Qingqing was silent for a moment, then nodded. The bonfire illuminated Wu Qingqing's beautiful face, making it slightly red. Being alone with Wu Qingqing made Lin Feng's heart flutter. He couldn't help but put his right hand on Wu Qingqing's waist. Wu Qingqing's expression changed, and she snorted coldly. "What are you doing? Stay away from me and show some respect. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite." Whoa! Wu Qingqing's eyes widened as soon as she finished speaking. She hadn't expected Lin Feng to be so bold. Wu Qingqing wanted to break free. However, her body was still in Lin Feng's embrace. She didn't manage to break free at first, and her body softened. In the end, she actually started to respond slowly. Jiang and Nong, Wu Mountain and Chu Meng, Xingyu and Xingyin sent me off. In the spring of Yao Xian's Golden Valley, Jade Child Fairy was nowhere to be seen. Purple smoke was indistinct, clear wind and bright moon longed for each other. Longing for each other, the grass was green, for the song of the phoenix flying together. This poem described the beauty and shame of a man and a woman going into the river of love together. It was just like what Wu Qingqing had experienced. Wu Qingqing's feelings for Lin Feng were very complicated. After meeting Lin Feng again, Lin Feng's expression changed. Complicated feelings, a lot of surprise, and a lot of shyness. However, as a woman, Wu Qingqing naturally would not express these feelings. Lin Feng was so overbearing that Wu Qingqing submitted to Lin Feng after resisting for a while. A woman's feelings were very complicated. After a round of lovemaking, Wu Qingqing curled up in Lin Feng's arms like a lazy kitten. There was a satisfied expression on her beautiful face. In the middle of the night, Lin Feng suddenly had a dream. This was a pitch-black world. In the dream, he walked along a small path, aimlessly walking in this pitch-black world. After an unknown amount of time, he saw a cultivator with snow-white robes and a black cape. Lin Feng felt that this figure was somewhat familiar. He wanted to chase after the cultivator to take a look, but the cultivator had already disappeared without a trace. As he went deeper and deeper, Lin Feng suddenly felt that this world was getting colder and colder. The people of this world are ultimately unable to escape the shackles of fate. They are unable to escape the curse of fate. Suddenly, a voice sounded. It was so sudden. "Who is it?" Lin Feng shouted loudly. However, no one answered him. Rumble. After an unknown amount of time, Lin Feng suddenly heard a series of earth-shaking sounds. Then, in the distance, Yin Qi soared into the sky. Yin soldiers passing through. Living beings retreating. Lin Feng was astonished. He had just seen a terrifying scene. Yin soldiers. Legend had it that they were an army that rushed out of hell. Wherever the Yin soldiers passed, death would follow. That was why there was a saying that living beings retreated when Yin soldiers passed through. The Yin soldiers rushed over from afar. Yin Qi soared into the sky, and ghost fog covered the sky. Wherever the Yin soldiers passed, all the flowers and trees withered and died. Lin Feng quickly chased after them. In the end, he saw the Yin soldiers catch up to the man. "Shu Mashio. Follow us." An undead soldier stepped forward. When he heard the name, Lin Feng's body trembled. Chu Mashio. Wasn't he the 36th Celestial Master of the Celestial Master lineage? There were a total of 36 Celestial Masters in the Celestial Master lineage. These 36 Celestial Masters were branded by the stone scripture. Lin Feng clearly remembered the name Chu Mashio. He should be a celestial master from the end of the ancient era. Fate! Fate! Chu Mashio muttered. He turned around. Lin Feng saw him. Lin Feng was shocked and in disbelief. This man was actually the one who abandoned Fairy Yuqing. Lin Feng immediately felt that something was amiss. Wu Qingqing said that Fairy Yuqing was from the ancient era. That didn't match Chu Mashio's era at all. However, Lin Feng immediately remembered that the ancient era was hundreds of thousands of years ago. It was normal for the records to be wrong. After all, she was someone from hundreds of thousands of years ago. It wasn't a big deal that the year was wrong. Chu Mashio stretched out his right hand, and a paper crane flew out. Chu Mashio left with the Yin soldier. The 36th Celestial Master was taken away by the Yin soldier, Lin Feng muttered. He was very shocked. The Yin soldier was about to enter hell. Why was Chu Mashio taken away by the Yin soldier? The Yin soldier took Chu Mashio and disappeared without a trace. The paper crane flew to a place called the Lunar Pure Immortal Palace. The Lunar Pure Immortal Palace is indeed Fairy Yuqing's palace. She was also a strong cultivator from the ancient era, and Chu Mashio, the 36th Celestial Master, was her lover. Lin Feng muttered. The paper crane burned, and a celestial palace appeared. Yuqing, our mortal fate is over. Forget about me, Chu Mashio said. Mashio, come here quickly. A beautiful woman called out gently from afar. Chu Mashio walked over and wrapped his arms around that woman's small waist. Why is it like this? Fairy Yuqing couldn't believe it. She took out the poem Chu Mashio had written that day. Jade incense burner, red candle tears, leaning towards the painting hall autumn thoughts. Thin eyebrows, hazy temples, long nights, cold pillows. Parasol tree, the rain in the third night, not knowing the pain of separation. Leaf after leaf, sound after sound, empty steps stripped to the light. Fairy Yuqing repeated the poem over and over again. Tears fell. She tried hard to wipe away her tears. But she couldn't wipe them away. She couldn't stop her tears from flowing. Later. The Lunar Pure Immortal Palace. It changed its name to the Heartless Palace. Fairy Yuqing changed her name to the Heartless Immortal. Another 200 years passed. Fairy Yuqing went through the giant god tribulation. She couldn't forget Chu Mashio. At the most crucial moment of the tribulation, she suffered a backlash. She was injured. She barely managed to keep her life. Mashio, where did you go? Fairy Yuqing muttered. She wanted to see her former lover one more time before she died. But in the end she died. She had endless regrets, but she couldn't find Chu Mashio. Chapter 1167. Lin Feng woke up from the dream, his face full of shock and emotion. That dream was so real. It was a sleepless night for Lin Feng. The next day, Lin Feng asked Wu Qingqing about Fairy Yuqing in detail, including all the rumors about her and her era. Wu Qingqing's knowledge of Fairy Yuqing was mostly from an ancient book. The ancient book didn't record which era Fairy Yuqing lived in. But that book was said to have been passed down from the ancient era. Therefore, Wu Qingqing guessed that Fairy Yuqing was also from the ancient era. Actually, this guess was wrong. With an ancient book passed down, the most one could guess was that Fairy Yuqing was from the ancient era or before. It was hard to confirm which era she was from. But now, Lin Feng could confirm that Fairy Yuqing was from the end of the ancient era. Lin Feng thought of something he heard in the dream. People in this world can't escape the shackles of fate. They can't escape the curse of fate. What did he mean by that? What did it mean? Or did it have something to do with the celestial masters? The most important thing was that the words, cursed fate, made Lin Feng feel uneasy. He thought of the fire crow he met before. He was cursed to become a fire crow forever and fly alone. He could never escape the curse. He thought of the celestial masters who were cursed to never meet each other. Otherwise, they would be in big trouble. Chu Mashio was the 36th celestial master. He must be very powerful. But even he couldn't resist the power of the curse and was taken away by the otherworldly soldiers. Could it be that the celestial masters had other curses besides the never meet each other curse? As for himself, he still didn't know what the curse was. Such a situation was highly possible. After all, the celestial masters were too powerful. Being cursed by several different curses, for generations to be cursed was a very normal thing. Clearly, the story between Chu Maxiu and Fairy Yu Qing was a tragedy from start to finish. It was Chu Maxiu who had been taken away by the otherworldly soldiers. He knew he couldn't live, so he wanted Fairy Yu Qing to forget about him instead of abandoning him. On the other hand, Fairy Yu Qing was unable to extricate herself from the pain of love. He even lost his life because of this. Even at death's door, she wasn't able to see Chu Maxiu one last time. With endless sorrow and regret, she died alone. When Wu Qingqing woke up and saw that Lin Feng's face was not looking too good, she asked him what had happened. Lin Feng told her what had happened in his dream. Lin Feng was surprised that Wu Qingqing's eyes had turned red. He had always thought that Wu Qingqing was a cold-hearted person. Could it be that after becoming a real woman, Wu Qingqing's character had become gentler? Women were fickle by nature, so if he thought about it carefully, it was quite possible. Before waking up in the morning, Lin Feng and Wu Qingqing had sex again. Most of the time, women's needs in this aspect were even greater than men's. Especially when it came to tasting the forbidden fruit for the first time. For women who were still shy about the matters between men and women, the temptation was even greater. Wu Qingqing was like that. After the two of them woke up, Lin Feng planned to head to the Supreme Pillar. Wu Qingqing wanted to go with Lin Feng. At this time, Wu Qingqing naturally didn't want to leave Lin Feng's side. Lin Feng considered the dangerous situation at the Supreme Pillar and didn't agree to Wu Qingqing's request. Instead, he asked Wu Qingqing to cultivate in seclusion for a while before leaving the prodigy battlefield. This was because Wu Qingqing had obtained many good things. She even obtained 6 types of Archean mystiques. These opportunities were already heaven-defying. Wu Qingqing also knew that Lin Feng was doing this for her own good, so she agreed. Wu Qingqing planned to cultivate in seclusion in the cave for a few days. Lin Feng strengthened the restrictions here. Then, he parted ways with Wu Qingqing. They didn't stop along the way and flew towards the deepest part of the prodigy battlefield. After 10 days, Lin Feng finally arrived. From afar, 72 huge stone pillars towered into the sky. Those 72 stone pillars were the Supreme Pillars. Because cultivators who could occupy the Supreme Pillars would receive blessings. Therefore, they were also known as the Stone Pillars of Blessings. The Supreme Pillars were protected by powerful restrictions. These restrictions didn't all disappear at once. Instead, they disappeared one by one. After the restriction on the first Supreme Pillar disappeared, everyone could climb up the Supreme Pillar in the next 2 hours. Then, they could fight for the ownership of the Supreme Pillar. Under normal circumstances, there would be experts who would go up to defend the ring. In order to fight for the ownership of the ring, one had to defeat the expert who was defending the ring. Most of the time, there would be more than 1 or 2 geniuses defending the ring. This was because there were too many geniuses in the 3,000 prefectures. There were a total of 72 Supreme Pillars. Obviously, the further one went, the more difficult it would be to occupy one of the Supreme Pillars. Therefore, after the restriction on the first Supreme Pillar disappeared, many people would rush to the Supreme Pillar and start a fierce competition. Now, the restrictions outside the 36 Supreme Pillars had already disappeared. The first 35 Supreme Pillars had already been occupied by others. On the 36th Supreme Pillar, there was an extremely fierce battle going on. More than a dozen cultivators surrounded one person. But the cultivator who was being surrounded was calm and collected. Beside him, runes interweaved. Those runes condensed into a huge dragon. This technique was called the Rune Dragon. It was the top inheritance of the Earth Master. Lin Feng had seen the person who attacked before. It was the successor of the Earth Master, Zidong Lai. Roar! A loud dragon roar resounded through the world. The huge dragons roared and bared their fangs and claws, pouncing towards the cultivators who were attacking Zidong Lai. Those cultivators. All of them were sent flying by the huge dragons. Their bodies exploded in midair, and they died on the spot. Zedong-Lai is indeed worthy of being a descendant of a Geomaster. He has many powerful inheritances. Defeating Zedong-Lai and taking away his supreme pillar won't be an easy task, murmured Lin Feng. Many cultivators were whispering amongst themselves as they looked at Zedong with fear in their eyes. Some of the experts who had originally wanted to attack him gave up on the idea. Their chances of winning against Zedong-Lai were too small. They might as well target the next supreme pillar. Zedong-Lai stood proudly with his hands behind his back. He coldly glanced around, his expression indifferent. Who else? He was extremely confident and looked down on everyone. I was just about to experience the inheritance of the Earth Master. Lin Feng sneered. He stepped forward and landed on the supreme pillar. Who are you? Your hands are not stained with the blood of a nobody. Zedong-Lai glanced sideways at Lin Feng. Chapter 1168. Someone's on the stage. Who is he? He knows how strong Zedong-Lai is, but he still dares to attack him. Isn't he a little too bold? Some cultivators looked at Lin Feng in confusion, trying to guess who Lin Feng was. Isn't that Lin Feng? Lin Feng stepped on the young genius's stage and trampled on Mu Rong. Some cultivators recognized Lin Feng and were shocked. What? He's Lin Feng? That Supreme Being Genius? Many people gasped. Lin Feng. Many Supreme Being Geniuses also noticed Lin Feng. Everyone had different expressions when they saw Lin Feng. Huangfu Qingtian narrowed his eyes when he saw Lin Feng. His eyes flashed coldly. Di Xingtian's killing intent soared. Ning Litao's eyes were cold. Of course, there were also some geniuses who were on good terms with Lin Feng. Jian Yudi, Bai Xingyi, Xing Tianyang, and the others all looked at Lin Feng in amazement. They already knew that Lin Feng had stepped onto the prodigy arena and that his strength had reached the level of a young supreme being. As friends of Lin Feng, they were naturally happy for Lin Feng. On the supreme pillar, Lin Feng looked at Zedong-Lai calmly. Zedong-Lai's arrogance seemed to come from his bones. Lin Feng was disgusted by Zedong-Lai's arrogance. What was there to be proud of? Did he really think that he was superior to others? He sneered and said, Don't act all high and mighty. Didn't you get beaten half to death by the two corpses in the heavenly astral grotto? What a disgrace. If you don't have the strength, just stay put. If you want to take something that doesn't belong to you, you're just asking for humiliation. Zedong-Lai's face darkened when he heard Lin Feng's words. He knew that Lin Feng was also in the heavenly astral grotto, but he didn't pay attention to a nobody like Lin Feng. In the heavenly astral grotto, Zedong-Lai coughed up blood because of the pressure from the two corpses. He had always regarded this as a humiliation. Now that this matter was being brought up again, and Lin Feng had reopened his wounds, he was furious. He said coldly, Since you managed to survive in the heavenly astral grotto, you should cherish your life instead of seeking death. Since you want to die, I'll grant you your wish. I'll kill you today! After saying that, Zedong-Lai's to kill Lin Feng. He's a heavenly astral technique. It was called the Brilliant Star Slash. Endless starlight condensed into a dazzling beam of light. The beam of light tore through the sky and headed straight for Lin Feng. It was as fast as lightning and arrived next to Lin Feng in the blink of an eye. So fast! Many people exclaimed. In the blink of an eye, it was already in front of Lin Feng. Many cultivators were guessing whether Lin Feng would be killed or not. Everybody was astonished. The Brilliant Star Slash was about to reach Lin Feng's body, but Lin Feng moved a dozen meters to the left and easily dodged the Brilliant Star Slash. He dodged it? Many people were shocked. They didn't think that Lin Feng would be able to dodge Zedong-Lai's attack so easily. Lin Feng jumped towards Zedong-Lai. Suddenly, Lin Feng felt a chill coming from behind him. He looked behind him and saw that the beam of light he just dodged was flying back at him again. This time, it was even faster and more powerful than before. What's going on? Shouldn't a heavenly astral technique dissipate after it fails? Why didn't Zidonglai's brilliant star slash dissipate after it failed? Why did it become even more powerful than before? Many people were puzzled, and their hearts were filled with shock. This was the first time they'd seen such a strange situation. It's very likely that it has something to do with Zidonglai's identity as the Earth Master's successor. Everyone should know that the Earth Master's lineage has many unimaginable inheritances. Many people nodded, obviously agreeing with the cultivator's words. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the battle above the supreme pillar. Now, the brilliant star slash's power had been greatly enhanced. It seemed to want to tear Lin Feng in half. If Lin Feng chose to dodge again, the brilliant star slash's power would continue to increase. Lin Feng knew this very well, so he didn't dodge. Instead, he raised his right hand and slashed out with a saber light. The dazzling saber light seemed to be able to tear the world apart, and it instantly slashed towards the terrifying beam of light formed by the brilliant star slash. Purple Chi from the east! Just as Lin Feng was about to deal with the brilliant star slash, Zidonglai made his move again. Purple Chi from the east was one of Zidonglai's most tyrannical techniques. A huge rumbling sound rang out. In the void, a purple river surged endlessly, sweeping towards Lin Feng. Zidonglai was extremely experienced in battle, so he was able to seize the best opportunity to attack Lin Feng. When Lin Feng had blocked the brilliant star slash, it was the best opportunity for Zidonglai to make his move. This was because it took a certain amount of time to use a second heavenly astral technique after using one heavenly astral technique. Zidonglai wanted to take advantage of that opportunity to attack Lin Feng. He wanted to take advantage of that opportunity to kill Lin Feng. Zidonglai is too strong. He grasps the opportunity to attack to the finest degree. Many cultivators exclaimed. Those who were able to come here were all experts, so they could naturally see that Zidonglai had the advantage. Many people felt that Lin Feng was in danger. The long river of purple chi smashed down like a Milky Way. The void was instantly pierced through, let alone flesh and blood. Just as the purple river was about to drown Lin Feng disappeared without a trace. Lin Feng had both a primary and secondary primordial spirit, and he could even use two heavenly astral techniques at the same time. Therefore, there was no time difference when switching between heavenly astral techniques. Zidonglai wanted to use the time difference to deal with Lin Feng. But his wishful thinking was a mistake. He disappeared. Many people exclaimed. Lin Feng had disappeared without a trace. This was unbelievable. Many people couldn't help but wonder. How did Lin Feng disappear? Could it be that he had borrowed the power of a powerful treasure? Swoosh! With a flash of light, Lin Feng appeared behind Zidonglai. He used the 5 Emperor Dragon Fists to attack Zidonglai. Lin Feng used the Qing Emperor's Demonic Dragon Fists, the Red Emperor's Fire Dragon Fists, the White Emperor's Golden Dragon Fists, the Black Emperor's Water Dragon Fists, and the Yellow Emperor's Divine Dragon Fists. 5 heavenly astral techniques circulated endlessly. 5 great emperors appeared behind Lin Feng, surrounded by holy light. They wore imperial robes and stood on giant dragons. With a soft roar, the void shattered. Zidonglai's expression suddenly changed. He hastily attacked, condensing a moon-embracing seal to block Lin Feng's 5 Emperor Dragon Fists. It was as if he was holding the moon in his arms. He collided with Lin Feng, but Zidonglai's hasty attack was no match for Lin Feng. He was sent flying by Lin Feng's punch. Barf! In midair, he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Chapter 1169. Zidonglai coughed up blood? Am I hallucinating? Of course not, Zidonglai is injured. Who is that guy? How is he so strong? Many people cried out in surprise, their faces full of shock. Zidonglai was a supreme young genius, and he was also a descendant of the Earth Master branch. Therefore, even supreme young geniuses couldn't compete with Zidonglai. Now Zidonglai had been beaten up by Lin Feng, and he was coughing up blood. How could everybody not be astonished? Only a few people knew Lin Feng. Many people had never seen Lin Feng before. Even though some people had already recognized Lin Feng, they didn't make a big deal out of it. Therefore, only a few people knew Lin Feng's identity. Most people didn't know who Lin Feng was. At that moment someone said, "That's Lin Feng, the one who stepped on Murong Tianshan." This sentence was like 1,000 ripples that had been set off. It caused a huge commotion. "He's Lin Feng, the one with incredible cultivation talent. Lin Feng? Yes, that's him. No wonder he was able to injure Zidong. He's terrifyingly talented. He's probably in the top 10 chosen geniuses. Even though he's very talented, he's still a little young. He's a few years younger than Huangfu Qingtian, Huangdao Wuji, Jian Yuri, and the others. For chosen geniuses like them, being a few years younger can cause a huge difference in their strength. Therefore, it's quite difficult for him to be in the top 10, but it shouldn't be a problem for him to be in the top 50. Lin Feng was born at the wrong time. If he had been born a few years earlier, he would have been the only chosen genius of his generation. But he was born a few years later, so he'll be suppressed by the strongest chosen geniuses. But I think that Lin Feng will be able to defeat Zidong. Even though Zidong is also a proud cultivator, he's not ranked very high. Brother, if you think that Zidong is so easy to deal with, then you're gravely mistaken. Zidong's strongest point isn't the divine abilities he cultivates, but the secret techniques passed down by the Geomasters. That's the most terrifying part about him. Earlier, Zidong was injured because he used divine abilities to fight against Lin Feng. That's why he was at a disadvantage. But if he uses the inheritance of the Geomasters, then Lin Feng will be at a disadvantage. Many of the cultivators there were pointing and discussing the matter. At present, they all knew about Lin Feng's identity. However, Lin Feng was indeed somewhat young. Due to that, many of them began looking down on Lin Feng. However, this was also human nature. No matter how good one's talent was, if one cultivated for a short period of time, it was still very difficult to raise one's strength. Lin Feng was about 5 years younger than Huangfu Qingtian and the other top geniuses. If Lin Feng, Huangfu Qingtian, and the others had already cultivated for hundreds, thousands, or even thousands of years, then a mere 5 years was naturally nothing. However, the key point was that Lin Feng, Huangfu Qingtian, and the other top geniuses were still very young. Lin Feng was 25 years old, while Huangfu Qingtian and the other top geniuses were about 30 years old. This group of people had cultivated for a relatively short period of time. Therefore, the impact of Lin Feng's 5 years of cultivation was too great. "Brat, I want your life!" At this time, Zidong, who was on the supreme pillar, roared furiously. He had never suffered such humiliation before. He was actually beaten to the point of vomiting blood. This kind of humiliation was driving him crazy. Zidong only wanted Lin Feng's life now. Boom! Terrifying fluctuations emanated from Zidong's body as formation runes intertwined. More than 10 formation runes condensed. The formation runes eventually transformed into a huge dragon that was baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. The formation runes condensed into a huge dragon. This was the inheritance of the Geomaster lineage. Zidong had used this move to kill more than 10 cultivators who had besieged him. Now Zidong was using this move again to deal with Lin Feng. The formation runes dragon. Zidong used this powerful inheritance to kill more than 10 cultivators who had besieged him. I wonder if Lin Feng can withstand Zidong's attack? Many people exclaimed. Clearly, Zidong's formation runes dragon had left a deep impression on all the cultivators. Huangfu Qingtian, Di Xingtian, Ning Litao, and the others looked at the battlefield coldly. They naturally hoped that Zidong could kill Lin Feng. That would save them a lot of trouble. Xing Tianyang frowned slightly and said, "I wonder if Brother Lin can withstand Zidong's attack. The inheritance of the Geomaster lineage is not only strange, but also terrifying." Bai Xingyi smiled and said, "Brother Tianyang, you've been away from the 72 prefectures for too long. That's why you're not familiar with some of the things that have happened in the 72 prefectures." "What do you mean, Fairy Bai?" Xing Tianyang asked curiously. Bai Xingyi said, I wonder if Brother Tianyang has heard the news that the successor of the Heavenly Master lineage has reappeared in this world? Xing Tianyang was slightly taken aback, then said, Of course I've heard of it. However, the Tianwu continent's 3,000 prefectures is too vast. There's a lot of news every day, and most of it can't be taken seriously. That's why I didn't pay much attention to it. Could it be true? Bai Xingyi nodded and said, Not only is it true, but the successor of the Heavenly Master lineage is none other than Lin Feng. Xing Tianyang's eyes widened as he was deeply shocked. Bai Xingyi smiled and said, Do you think that Zi Donglai is still a match for Lin Feng? Xing Tianyang laughed and said, How can the legacy of the Heavenly Master lineage compare to the legacy of the Heavenly Master lineage? It's like the light of a firefly competing with the radiance of the moon. While the cultivators below were discussing this, Zi Donglai's formation dragons had already arrived in front of Lin Feng. Each formation dragon was extremely ferocious. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws. Brat, let's see how you'll die! Zi Donglai laughed sinisterly. Clearly, he was extremely confident in his formation dragons. These formation dragons were not only powerful, but they also formed a huge formation in the sky. Their power could be linked together, so breaking through them was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. The legacy of the Heavenly Master lineage is trash in my eyes. Lin Feng sneered. Zi Donglai said gloomily, Brat, you're about to die, yet you still dare to boast so shamelessly. You'll be on the Supreme Berserk Corpse pillar in a moment. I can't be bothered to argue with you because you're not worthy. I'm not worthy? You think too highly of yourself. Lin Feng looked indifferent as he walked through the sky. The formation dragons attacked Lin Feng, but no matter how they attacked, they couldn't hurt Lin Feng. Lin Feng rushed out of the formation dragon's encirclement and used the teleportation technique to appear in front of Zi Donglai. You're saying that I'm not worthy? I think you're the one who's not worthy of being my opponent because you're really too weak. Lin Feng sneered. He raised his right hand and punched Zi Donglai's face. Pfft! Zi Donglai's body was sent flying. Half of his face had been smashed by Lin Feng's punch. Chapter 1170. Who the hell are you? How could you break my Geomaster technique? Zi Dong looked at Lin Feng gloomily. He was beginning to suspect Lin Feng's identity. If someone didn't understand the Geomaster technique, it would be very difficult to break it. But when Lin Feng broke it, it was too easy. Lin Feng, the disciple of the Celestial Masters. Lin Feng looked indifferent. It's you. Zidong's eyes suddenly burst out with a thick killing intent. Zidong had heard about the disciple of the Celestial Masters a long time ago. Besides, the Geomasters had sent strong cultivators to find Lin Feng. Zidong hadn't thought that he would meet the disciple of the Celestial Masters here. And this person was the one who had trampled on Murong Tianshan, Lin Feng. When he heard the name, Lin Feng, Zidong was certain. Zidonglai was sure that Lin Feng was the one everyone was talking about. No wonder he was so strong. It was normal for such a strong cultivator to be so strong. Lin Feng looked indifferent. Are you surprised? I know that the Geomasters are looking for me. I'm standing right here. Show me all of your trump cards. Zidonglai sneered. You've worn out iron shoes in a fruitless search, only to find it by chance. Since you've come to die, don't blame me. Today, I'll use the inheritance of your Tianshi clan to kill you, just like the ancestors of our Tianshi clan did. They killed the descendants of your Tianshi clan and then robbed them of their inheritance. Your fate will be the same. When he finished speaking, Zidong stepped forward. Rumbling sounds spread in the air. 8 illusory worlds appeared around Zidonglai. Those were the 8 worlds Zidong had used before. Those were the ultimate techniques of the Celestial Masters. You killed the ancestors of the Celestial Masters for your own selfish desires. In this world, the Geomasters are destined to be destroyed by me. And you, Zidong, will be the first disciple of the Geomasters I'll kill. Lin Feng looked indifferent as he quickly moved towards Zidong. Sky rend. Sword intent. Sword and blade fusion. In a flash, they pierced through the air and moved towards Zidong. What shameless boasting! Zidong smiled evilly. Today, I'll let you know how powerful the 8 worlds are. I'll use the techniques of the Celestial Masters to kill the disciples of the Celestial Masters. Just thinking about it makes me feel good. Lin Feng's attack arrived in front of Zidong Lai. Zidong Lai used his 8 directional worlds to absorb Lin Feng's attack. The 8 worlds neutralized Lin Feng's attacks. As for Zidong Lai, with a single step, he crossed several hundred meters in an instant. The 8 directional worlds had many wonderful uses, and its attainments in the aspect of speed were also extremely high. After arriving in front of Lin Feng, Zidong threw a punch at Lin Feng. Lin Feng hurriedly blocked with a punch, but was sent flying by Zidong. While his body was still in the air, Zidong used another technique of the Celestial Masters. 8 trigrams. Buzz, an incredible amount of energy emerged in the air. In the sky, 8 trigrams appeared and moved towards Lin Feng, oppressing him. The 8 trigrams were Qian, Dui, Jin, Sun, Kun, Zhen, Li, Kansas. Each trigram represented a certain thing. Qian represented heaven, Kun represented earth, Sun represented wind, Jin represented thunder, Kin represented water, Li represented fire, Zhen represented mountain, and Dui represented lake. The 8 trigrams were like 8 infinite invisible bags that could hold everything in the universe. When the 8 trigrams were combined, they formed 64 trigrams. They could be used to deduce the heavens and even the future. The 8 trigrams of the Celestial Masters were known as the innate 8 trigrams. It was rumored that the innate 8 trigrams had been learned by the first Celestial Master from the ancient sage Emperor, Fuxi. The 8 trigrams could be said to be one of the strongest legacies of the Celestial Masters, but it had been taken away by the Earth Masters. Now, the 8 trigrams were pressing down on Lin Feng. The 8 trigrams were said to be able to swallow the universe. Lin Feng was enveloped by the 8 trigrams. He felt that no matter how hard he tried, he could not escape from the 8 trigrams. He could only watch as the 8 trigrams pressed down on him and killed him. The 8 trigrams were supposed to be one of the top legacies of the Celestial Masters, but they had been used by the Earth Masters to deal with him. This made Lin Feng angry and depressed. The 8 trigrams devour the universe. How can you avoid the 8 trigrams' attack? Kid, let's see how you die. Zidong laughed complacently, as if he could already see Lin Feng being killed by the 8 trigrams. Is Lin Feng going to die? I didn't think that Lin Feng would be the Celestial Master's descendant. But this is too humiliating. He's the Celestial Master's descendant, but he's going to be killed by the Celestial Master's powerful legacies. Many people shook their heads. Obviously, they thought that Lin Feng was going to die. The 8 trigrams were too powerful. It would not be easy to break them. Even Jian Yudi, Bai Xingyi, and the others couldn't help but worry about Lin Feng. Ancestors of the Celestial Masters, I will avenge you. I will take back all the legacies that were stolen from you. Lin Feng was walking in the air. He had made a great promise. Buzz. At that moment, the illusory stone scripture condensed in Lin Feng's mind seemed to sense Lin Feng's great promise. At that moment, the illusory stone scripture seemed to connect with a great being in the unseen world. Originally, the illusory stone scripture couldn't be activated. But now, after communicating with that great being in the unseen world, a stream of energy descended from the sky and poured into the illusory stone scripture. The illusory stone scripture became a lot more solid. That's... Lin Feng was shocked. Could it be that the stone scripture's main body had sensed his great promise as the Celestial Master's descendant? Was that why a part of its strength had been transmitted to him? The Celestial Master's holy scripture was a treasure nurtured by heaven and earth. Lin Feng wasn't surprised that it could sense his great promise. Come out! Lin Feng waved his right hand and the illusory stone scripture flew out. It was a huge book. The book opened. Lin Feng stood on top of it. When the 8 trigrams fell, the stone scripture swallowed them whole. The 8 trigrams turned into a talisman on the stone scripture. How is that possible? Zedong roared in disbelief. 8 seals! Great suppression art! Lin Feng threw himself at Zedong Lai. First, he used the 8 godly seals to seal him, then he used the great oppressive technique to oppress him. 2 things at the same time. Zedong roared in anger. He wanted to break Lin Feng's seals and suppression. But he failed. His body was entangled by the dense array patterns. Then, he was suppressed by the great suppression art. He couldn't move. Lin Feng jumped forwards and threw a punch at Zedong Lai's dantian. Bang! Lin Feng's punch landed on Zedong's abdomen. Crack, crack! Zedong's dantian shattered. He flew back dozens of meters and fell to the ground. His hair was disheveled and his body was twitching violently. Zedong Lai's dantian had been destroyed by Lin Feng and he had become a cripple. Chapter 1171. I've been crippled. My dantian has been destroyed. I've become a cripple. How did this happen? How could I become a cripple? Zedong roared in disbelief. He couldn't accept this. He was a proud son of the heavens. Everyone looked up to him. The stars revolved around the moon. Now, he had become a cripple. It was as if an emperor had suddenly become a beggar. Such a huge difference was unbearable. It's you! It's all your fault! You crippled me! You'll die a horrible death! Zedong glared at Lin Feng with hatred. He blamed everything on Lin Feng. He wanted nothing more than to cut Lin Feng into 1,000 pieces. Lin Feng looked at Zedong indifferently and sneered. I can confirm that I'm living very well, but you've become a cripple. He walked towards Zedong, step by step. At that moment, the surrounding cultivators came back to their senses, and their expressions changed. Zedong! The successor of the Earth Master's branch. He had actually been crippled. This was simply earth-shattering news. Zedong's crippling was enough to cause a huge uproar. Many people were pointing and discussing. Some were shocked by Lin Feng's strength, while others looked at Lin Feng with killing intent. Some admired Lin Feng for daring to cripple Zedong, while others looked at Lin Feng with greedy eyes. Obviously, these people had their eyes on the inheritance that Lin Feng had obtained. Lin Feng arrived in front of Zedong and used the soul-searching technique, forcibly searching Zedong's soul. This person had learned the 8 trigrams diagram and the 8 trigrams world. Lin Feng naturally wanted to search and take back the inheritance that had been stolen from him. Ah! Zedong roared in pain. You dare to search my soul? You won't succeed. Don't even think about getting anything from me. Shut up. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. He directly restrained Zedong Lai, preventing him from moving or speaking. Lin Feng's spiritual sense poured into Zedong's body, forcibly searching his soul. How dare you! Suddenly, a cold voice rang out in Zedong Lai's mind. Then, a figure appeared. This was a middle-aged man. He was like a deity, exuding boundless majesty. The spiritual brand of a rebirth stage expert. Lin Feng was shocked. He did not expect to encounter such a powerful figure. Zedong Lai was also a top-notch genius in the Geomaster lineage. A genius like him was heavily nurtured by the Geomaster lineage. If nothing unexpected happened, Zedong Lai would have an important position in the Geomaster faction in the future. Therefore, a successor like Zedong Lai was highly valued. From the fact that Zedong Lai had been able to learn the 8 trigrams and the 8 trigrams, one could see how extraordinary Zedong Lai's status in the Geomaster lineage was. Zedong Lai's memories contained many secrets. Not only did they contain various inheritances, but they also contained secrets of the Geomaster lineage. Therefore, the higher-ups of the Geomaster lineage had left a spiritual brand in Zedong Lai's mind. This spiritual brand would be awakened when Zedong Lai's soul was searched. First, it could destroy Zedong Lai's soul so that the secrets in his memories would not be exposed. Second, it could deal with those who wanted to search Zedong Lai's soul. Now that the spiritual brand of a rebirth stage expert had been awakened, it directly attacked Lin Feng's soul. That was the godly awareness imprint of a cultivator of the reincarnation layer. It was terrifying. Lin Feng sensed death chi when that cultivator attacked. A rebirth stage expert. That was terrifying. Just a divine sense imprint had such terrifying power. It was truly shocking and moving. If it were anyone else, they might have died. However, it was impossible to deal with Lin Feng. That was because Lin Feng had the heavenly flames. To put it bluntly, the spiritual brand was formed by the power of the soul. The power of the soul was the power of the darkness attribute. The heavenly flames. The world's hottest and fiercest flame. It was the bane of all darkness attribute powers. The spiritual brand formed by the power of the soul was naturally suppressed by the heavenly flames. Heavenly flames, come out! With a thought, Lin Feng summoned the purple earthcore flame and the black god incinerating flame in Zidong-Lai's mind. Then, they wrapped around the spiritual brand of the rebirth stage expert. The heavenly flames burned fiercely. Ah! A blood-curdling shriek rang out. The spiritual brand of the rebirth stage expert had been severely injured. Heavenly flames! It's actually the heavenly flames! You actually have two types of heavenly flames! His voice was trembling with disbelief. In this era, it was extremely difficult to even see a heavenly flame, let alone refine it. However, Lin Feng had refined two types of heavenly flames. It was truly too heaven-defying. Die! Lin Feng's voice was cold. He activated the two heavenly flames, wanting to refine the spiritual brand of the rebirth stage expert to death. The spiritual brand of the rebirth stage expert knew that the situation was hopeless. Wanting to destroy Lin Feng's soul was no longer realistic. Therefore, his spiritual brand rushed towards Zidong-Lai's soul, wanting to destroy it. Lin Feng sneered. You're too arrogant. If you had tried to destroy Zidong-Lai's soul, I wouldn't have been able to stop you. At that time, all my efforts would have been for naught. However, you chose to attack me first, wanting to destroy my soul. In that case, you've already lost the chance to destroy Zidong-Lai's soul. As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Feng used the Great Entanglement Art. The Great Path of the 3,000 Great Paths was originally a divine ability that the witch, Guan Guan, had mastered. Although Lin Feng and Guan Guan hadn't had an intimate relationship, the two of them had basically confirmed that they were a couple. Lin Feng wanted to learn the Great Entanglement Art, so Guan Guan wasn't stingy and taught it to Lin Feng. It was obvious that Guan Guan really liked Lin Feng. Otherwise, she wouldn't have taught such a divine ability to Lin Feng. After Lin Feng used the Great Entanglement Art, the spiritual brand of the rebirth stage expert was entangled, preventing him from flying towards Zidong-Lai's soul. Damn it! The spiritual brand of the rebirth stage expert roared. However, he couldn't break free. Die! Lin Feng sneered. The heavenly flames burned even brighter, their destructive power increasing. Not long after, the spiritual brand of the rebirth stage expert was slowly dissipating. Before the spiritual brand of the rebirth stage expert was completely destroyed, a voice filled with murderous intent rang out. Brat, just you wait. The Earth Masters will hunt you down endlessly until you're dead. I'll wait. Let's see if you kill me, or if I destroy your Geomaster branch. Lin Feng smiled icily and punched the reincarnation cultivator's godly awareness to pieces. Soul search. After that, Lin Feng forcefully searched Zidong-Lai's soul. Zidong-Lai's soul let out a miserable shriek. Found it. Lin Feng was pleasantly surprised. His spiritual brand had found the information he needed in Zidong-Lai's soul. This information contained many astonishing secrets, including the cultivation methods of the 8 trigrams art and the 8 trigrams art. Chapter 1172. I'll send you on your way. Don't be my enemy in your next life, because my enemies are destined to die. Lin Feng looked indifferent. He raised his right hand and chopped off Zidong-Lai's head. Many people were shocked. Zidong-Lai was a supreme genius, and he was also the successor of the Geomaster faction. How could he be killed just like that? It was obvious that Lin Feng and the Geomaster faction would not rest until one of them was dead. Lin Feng threw Zidong Lai's corpse away. At that moment, the supreme pillar was enveloped by a light screen. That was because 2 hours had passed since the barrier around the supreme pillar had disappeared. Therefore, the barrier around the supreme pillar would reappear and protect the cultivator who occupied the supreme pillar from being disturbed. The cultivator who occupied the supreme pillar would not be able to hear anything from the outside world. He could cultivate peacefully on the supreme pillar. He's lucky! Di Xingtian, Ning Litao, and the other cultivators who wanted to attack Lin Feng's supreme pillar looked cold and gloomy when they saw that it was covered by the barrier again. Lin Feng sat cross-legged on the ground. What was happening outside had nothing to do with him anymore. He started to comprehend the 8 worlds and the 8 trigrams diagram. Gradually, Lin Feng entered a state of enlightenment. It was not easy to comprehend the top inheritance of the Heavenly Master faction. Lin Feng tried to comprehend it for a long time, but he still could not comprehend its mysteries. Suddenly, a voice resounded in Lin Feng's mind. Heavenly Pillar of Fortune, fortune descends from the heavens. The great Tao is one, and the divine ability is formed. As the voice finished speaking, suddenly, the world of 8 directions and the 8 trigrams, the 2 legacies of the Celestial Master Path, began to take the initiative to form a magical formation. This is fortune? Lin Feng was shocked. Then, he looked happy. This heavenly pillar of good fortune, supreme pillar, was simply too amazing. The good fortune that descended could help a cultivator actively comprehend a divine ability and successfully cultivate it. Just how much time would a cultivator be saved from bitter cultivation? Lin Feng finally understood why so many people were fighting for the supreme pillar. When the 8 directions world and the 8 trigrams diagram began to form the divine ability grand array. Immediately after, the divine finger, heaven burning fire art, Buddha's fury 1000 waves / stellar transposition, galaxy shattering fist, and raging waves sword art, these 6 ancient divine abilities also began to take the initiative to form a divine ability grand formation. Lin Feng had yet to comprehend the 6 primordial divine powers after obtaining them. Now, he didn't need to cultivate by himself because Lin Feng had received a blessing. All divine abilities would automatically be cultivated successfully. In the end, all 8 top-notch divine abilities were upgraded to the realm of greater mastery. This made Lin Feng very excited. If he wanted to cultivate all 8 divine abilities to the great success stage, he would need to spend at least a few years. Now, good fortune had descended. The time needed to painstakingly cultivate divine arts would be completely saved. In addition to these 8 divine abilities, Lin Feng's great entanglement technique had also reached the great success stage. Originally, Lin Feng had only cultivated this ability to the entry level. Under the effect of the power of fortune, he had leveled up by 2 levels. From entry level to lesser mastery, and then to greater mastery. Therefore, this time, Lin Feng had obtained a celestial pillar of good fortune, supreme pillar, which was extremely beneficial for him. After all these divine abilities had reached greater mastery, Lin Feng's Danci expanded once again. Even more magic power poured into the Danci. Lin Feng's magic power became even more majestic than before. It was even more profound and powerful. Cultivating a primordial divine ability could greatly increase one's cultivation. Not to mention, Lin Feng had cultivated 6 primordial divine abilities, 2 top-notch divine abilities from the Celestial Master lineage, and one of the 3000 Great Tao. The increase in strength was even more obvious. But the power of fortune clearly didn't end like this. Occupying the heavenly pillar of fortune, rewarded with the power of providence. That voice resounded again. The power of providence was the most ethereal power. Some people could pick up magic treasures when they went out. Some people would meet with misfortune when they went out. Why was it that when they went out, what they experienced was great joy and great sorrow? Why was there such a huge contrast? The reason was because of providence. Those with strong providence would often encounter providence. Those with poor providence might choke to death when drinking water. Now, Lin Feng had received the blessing of providence. Lin Feng immediately felt that there was an invisible and intangible energy in his body. Lin Feng could sense the existence of this energy. But he couldn't sense what kind of power this power of providence was. The power of providence was fleeting and ephemeral. It existed in the world. But cultivators couldn't discover this energy. Fortune, providence, 2 rewards have been completed. Choose to continue cultivating? Or choose to be teleported out? That voice sounded again. Lin Feng estimated the time of the battlefield of prodigies. There were probably less than 2 months left before the battlefield of prodigies closed. He had already obtained enough benefits in the battlefield of prodigies. It was time to leave the battlefield of prodigies. Leaving early could also save a lot of trouble. Choose to leave, Lin Feng replied. Swoosh! With a flash of light, Lin Feng disappeared from the heavenly pillar of fortune, supreme pillar. 100 miles away, light flickered. Lin Feng stepped out of the void. He didn't stay any longer and flew towards the exit of the battlefield of prodigies. When he arrived at the exit, Lin Feng encountered trouble. This was because he discovered that many people were searching for his whereabouts. At the same time, powerful divine wills swept across the void. These were the divine senses of rebirth realm experts. Some of the cultivators who left the battlefield of prodigies felt the divine senses of these rebirth realm experts, and their expressions changed drastically. They thought that something serious had happened. At this time, someone said, "Don't be afraid. These rebirth realm experts are searching for Lin Feng's whereabouts to prevent Lin Feng from escaping. They're not targeting us." Searching for Lin Feng's whereabouts? The one who ascended to the prodigy arena? The Lin Feng who stepped on heavenly god Murong? A cultivator asked in surprise. That's right. Lin Feng's innate talent is too monstrous. Many factions don't want such a monstrous existence to appear in the world again. The cultivators who were discussing this matter left the battlefield of prodigies. As expected, they left without a hitch and didn't encounter any attacks. Lin Feng didn't dare to go out because the experts outside were searching for him. It wouldn't be easy to hide from them. This is troublesome. Lin Feng frowned. He had a feeling that things were developing in a very bad direction. The Blue Cloud sect didn't have any experts who could protect him. Therefore, if he went out like this, only death would await him. In the end, Lin Feng decided to take a risk. He used a simple disguise technique to change his appearance, turning into a middle-aged scholar around 40 years old. Then, he blended into a group of cultivators and left the battlefield of prodigies. When he arrived outside, he didn't stop and directly flew towards the teleportation array. Suddenly, a rebirth realm expert frowned slightly and looked at Lin Feng in the crowd. This was an expert from the Yin Yang sect. He had a profound cultivation base. Stop. I have something to ask you, the rebirth realm expert said. Oh no! Lin Feng's expression suddenly changed. Trying to hide from a rebirth realm expert was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Lin Feng soared into the sky and flew towards the teleportation array. So it's you. Where do you think you're going? The rebirth level cultivator's eyes twinkled. He stretched out his hand and grabbed Lin Feng. Chapter 1173. He's Lin Feng! Ha! Wonderful! He's finally here! Attack! The rebirth realm cultivators attacked one after another. Those rebirth realm cultivators looked down on the 3,000 provinces. They were invincible. Maybe they didn't have any enmity with Lin Feng, but so what? The world of cultivators was a cruel world. It was a world where the strong set the rules. As long as these strong people wanted to, they could kill anyone they wanted. Besides, Lin Feng had precious treasures and all sorts of powerful inheritances. That was enough for those rebirth-level cultivators to target Lin Feng. Demon Lord, Lin Feng said telepathically. He wanted to make a deal with the Demon Lord. If the Demon Lord attacked, he would definitely be able to get out of this predicament. However, the Demon Lord didn't reply to Lin Feng. Lin Feng suddenly remembered that the Demon Lord had obtained some sacred source liquid. Was he in seclusion again? The Demon Lord always stayed in seclusion for a long time. If the Demon Lord was in seclusion at such a critical moment, wouldn't Lin Feng die? 7 or 8 Rebirth Realm cultivators attacked Lin Feng. The situation was extremely dangerous. It's Lin Feng, the Celestial Master Taoist disciple. He's finally appeared. His talent is too heaven-defying. Many great powers won't let such a genius live. They've killed many geniuses before, murmured Lin Feng. Those influential groups want to control the continent of the Celestial Martial Continent. They want absolute strength. Therefore, they kill all the potential threats. Even though their actions are disgraceful, they've been doing it for so many years. Many incredible geniuses have been killed, but those influential groups are still in control of the continent of the Celestial Martial Continent. That way, they can enjoy the benefits of being the overlords of the continent of the Celestial Martial Continent. Actually, they don't need to do that. Even if those geniuses become stronger, they won't necessarily become enemies. Brother, you don't understand, right? Do you know what jealousy means? If such a monstrous cultivator appeared in a powerful group of influence, that would be great. But Lin Feng's background is ordinary, he's just from an ancient influential group. If we don't kill him now, he'll be recruited by a powerful group of influence in the near future. Then, if we want to kill him, we'll have to think twice. The best way is to kill him so that no powerful group of influence can recruit such a monstrous cultivator, Lin Feng said, shaking his head. I see. No wonder those influential groups chose to kill Lin Feng. Of course, there's another important reason. Lin Feng is a monstrous genius, he has too many secrets, and those influential groups want to share them with him. Many cultivators were talking about Lin Feng. In their eyes, Lin Feng was no different from a dead man. No matter how strong Lin Feng was, it was impossible for him to escape from the encirclement of a group of Rebirth Realm cultivators. I'm finished. Lin Feng's face turned pale when he saw the Rebirth State cultivators surrounding him. He felt that his body could not move at all. The aura of death was so clear that he could smell it. Just when Lin Feng thought he was going to die, the air shook. A young man in snow-white clothes stepped out. He shot out a ray of light, blocking the attacks of the Rebirth State cultivators. He grabbed Lin Feng and retreated 1,000 meters. Holy Lord Peacock! What's the meaning of this? The faces of the Rebirth Realm experts instantly turned gloomy. The young man was Holy Lord Peacock. Lin Feng had seen him fight before. He was like a god. When he left the South Continent with the monster race, he went to the Monster Continent. He went to Holy Lord Peacock's territory, but Lin Feng didn't see him. Thank you, Semir. Lin Feng bowed. Holy Lord Peacock nodded and looked at the Rebirth State cultivators of the Yin-Yang sect and the Geo-Master branch. He said indifferently, Lin Feng is Great Emperor Tai Qing's benefactor. He's related to the Beast clan. Today, I'll tell you that in the future, if any old cultivator of the reincarnation realm dares attack Lin Feng, I'll go to the ends of the earth to take their heads. Holy Lord Peacock clasped his hands behind his back. Hiss! Many people gasped. Holy Lord Peacock was too strong. He was facing so many Rebirth State cultivators alone, and he still dared to say such a thing. Holy Lord Peacock is too arrogant. He's only been cultivating for 800 years. Even though he's strong, those Rebirth State cultivators are all extremely strong. Holy Lord Peacock sneered. The Yin-Yang sect cultivator was called Song Mingyu. He smiled coldly and said, Holy Lord Peacock, you're just a junior who's only been cultivating for 800 years. How dare you act so arrogantly? Today, I'll suppress you. I'll show you how high the sky is and how deep the earth is. Song Mingyu was the one who had discovered Lin Feng. He'd been cultivating for 8,700 years. He was terrifyingly strong. When he stepped forward, the space around him distorted. I'd like to see how strong you are. Holy Lord Peacock stepped forward. Lin Feng looked at Holy Lord Peacock worriedly. He knew how strong Holy Lord Peacock was, but Song Mingyu was also a peerless cultivator. Besides, he'd been cultivating for too long. Lin Feng was worried that Holy Lord Peacock would suffer. Pluto descends. Song Mingyu sneered. He condensed a peerless divine power. Black fog surged out. An ancient aura was emitted from within the black fog. Vaguely, a man in a pitch-black imperial robe appeared. That person seemed to be the Pluto King, who controlled the underworld. He controlled the life and death of billions of people. If the Pluto King wants you dead at midnight, he won't let you live until dawn. The Pluto King stepped forward and attacked Holy Lord Peacock with his palm. Boundless death energy enveloped Holy Lord Peacock. Countless cultivators trembled in fear when they sensed the Pluto King's chi. Many people couldn't help but kneel on the ground and worship the Pluto King. The Pluto King didn't seem to be condensed from a spell. He seemed to be the real lord of the underworld. How terrifying. Lin Feng's expression became serious. A rebirth realm cultivator had the power to destroy the world with a wave of his hand. This Song Mingyu was so powerful that it made people despair. I am eternally brilliant, eternally immortal. Holy Lord Peacock murmured. The Peacock's sacred lord murmured as his body turned into a ray of eternal light. The eternal light seemed to become the only thing in the world. It instantly tore the Pluto King apart. Then, the eternal light flew in front of Song Mingyu. Puff! There was a tearing sound. Blood splattered everywhere. An arm was thrown into the air. It was accompanied by Song Mingyu's painful groan. Song Mingyu. He was a terrifying rebirth realm cultivator. It was the first time he'd fought Holy Lord Peacock. Sacred Lord Peacock chopped off one of his arms. Chapter 1174. My arm! Song Mingming screamed. Song Mingyu couldn't help but let out a painful scream. Song Mingyu, who had lost an arm, was as pale as a sheet of paper, and his aura became disordered. Obviously, to an expert of his level, losing an arm was an unbearable pain. Holy Leader Peacock, you cut off my arm, I'll kill you! Shouted Song Mingyu furiously. He wanted to put his life on the line. Is that so? Then I don't mind cutting off your head. Holy Leader Peacock clasped his hands behind his back. Song Mingyu couldn't help but shiver. After the initial anger and resentment, Song Mingyu felt a chill down his spine. Now that he had come back to his senses, he didn't dare attack Holy Leader Peacock anymore. That was because someone like the Peacock's sacred lord was a man of his word. Holy Leader Peacock is too strong. He cut off Song Mingyu's arm in one strike. What kind of cultivation level is he? Holy Leader Peacock has only cultivated for 800 years. He's already so strong in such a short time. How strong will he be in the future? Back in the days, there were two supreme geniuses. Holy Leader Peacock has grown up. As for the golden-winged rock, it's said that he has died. They were both dazzling in the past, but now they have completely different fates. Didn't Lin Feng become friends with the beasts because he was in the South Continent? He saved great Emperor Taiching's descendant and destroyed the plan of the one group, three governments. If he hadn't done that, the beasts wouldn't have become friends with the humans so easily. Holy Leader Peacock wouldn't have fought against so many strong cultivators for a human cultivator. Holy Leader Peacock is too strong. Those rebirth level cultivators probably won't dare attack him anymore. With Holy Leader Peacock intimidating them, they'll have to behave themselves. They won't attack Lin Feng, at least not openly. As for whether they'll attack Lin Feng secretly, nobody knows. Many people were discussing in low voices. The expressions of the rebirth realm experts were gloomy. If they chose to retreat now, they would naturally lose face. But Holy Leader Peacock was too strong. They were terrified. Who would dare attack him? At this moment, Murong Tianxian, who was sitting cross-legged in the void, opened his eyes. Boom! Heavenly God Murong stood up. This person was simply too terrifying. The instant he stood up, the great Tao resonated, shaking the heavens and the earth. Many people were shocked. Was Heavenly Deity Murong going to take action? Heavenly God Murong was the only paragon on Heaven's Pride Mountain. But now, he was being trampled on by Lin Feng. No one found it strange that such a character would act against Lin Feng. You want to kill Lin Feng as well? Sacred Lord Peacock's expression was indifferent. A mere junior isn't worth my time. I'm here for you, Heavenly God Murong said. Lin Feng sneered in his heart. He felt that Heavenly God Murong was a very hypocritical person. Why did he say that? Lin Feng's judgment was not without basis. Back then, Lin Feng had reached the 99th step. Murong Tianxian's mark attacked Lin Feng, wanting to kill Lin Feng. This was because Heavenly God Murong didn't want others to share the 99th stone step with him. Thus, Heavenly God Murong was definitely not a broad-minded person. But now, how could Heavenly God Murong let Lin Feng go? But Heavenly God Murong said that he wasn't attacking because of Lin Feng. Who would believe his words? If it wasn't because of Lin Feng, then was it because of Sacred Lord Peacock? Why would Heavenly God Murong offend someone as terrifying as Sacred Lord Peacock for no reason? Let me experience your divine abilities! Heavenly God Murong stepped forward, emitting a terrifying aura. He locked onto Sacred Lord Peacock. At that moment, the rebirth level cultivators glanced at each other. They could all see the same glint in each other's eyes. Obviously, they wanted to take advantage of the fact that Heavenly God Murong was delaying Sacred Lord Peacock to secretly attack and kill Lin Feng. Lin Feng also thought of this. He sensed several terrifying killing intents. Lin Feng's expression changed slightly. He didn't dare to hesitate and quickly retreated. But at that moment, several terrifying energies surged over and locked onto Lin Feng. They wanted to kill Lin Feng. Not good. Lin Feng's expression became serious. He was about to take out the 4 vicious cauldron and hide inside. Lin Feng felt that if he hid inside the cauldron, it wouldn't be so easy for them to kill him. Cough, cough, cough. At that moment, a coughing sound could be heard. The void split open. A sickly-looking man walked out. After he appeared, all the attacks which were moving towards Lin Feng were instantly annihilated. Senior! Lin Feng was pleasantly surprised when he saw the newcomer. The sickly-looking man was actually the demon race's Great Peking. When Lin Feng left Sacred Lord Peacock's territory, the Great Peking was temporarily sealed in the sacred ice coffin. Now that he saw the Great Peking again, the Great Peking had actually come back to life. The Great Peking turned to look at Lin Feng and nodded slightly. Then, he looked coldly at the Rebirth Realm cultivators in the distance. You're a Rebirth Realm cultivator, but you're secretly attacking a junior. You're a disgrace to your ancestors. King Zhanping sneered. Great Peking, who are you talking about? The Rebirth Realm cultivators who attacked had extremely gloomy expressions. The Great Peking sneered. Everyone knows who I'm talking about. Do you want me to point out the names? The Rebirth Realm cultivators' expressions were extremely ugly, but they could only endure it for now. The Great Peking of the demon race was as famous as Sacred Lord Peacock. The fact that the Great Peking was still alive after being injured was too terrifying. At that moment, Murong Tianxian and Sacred Lord Peacock collided, and their palms collided. With the two of them at the center, the space around them started to collapse. Many people were horrified. Was this really an attack that a mortal could use? It was like a battle between two gods. After the collision, Murong Tianxian retreated and returned to a distant place. He sat down cross-legged and didn't say anything. Sacred Lord Peacock stepped forward and returned. What's the result of their battle? Many people were puzzled and glanced at each other. They didn't know who had won the battle. Only those reincarnation stage cultivators were able to see some clues. Did my words go in one ear and out the other? Do you think you can kill Lin Feng by attacking secretly? Since you don't know what's good for you, I'll take your lives today. Sacred Lord Peacock's expression was indifferent. He was extremely powerful. A terrifying chi spread out from his body and enveloped the 7 Rebirth Realm cultivators. Heavens! Is Sacred Lord Peacock really going to kill the 7 Rebirth Realm cultivators? Many people were astonished. They couldn't believe it. His opponents were 7 Rebirth Realm cultivators, not 7 random cats and dogs. But Sacred Lord Peacock still wanted to fight against them without hesitation. He was way too strong. Sacred Lord Peacock, do you think you can fight against the 7 of us by yourself? Said the 7 Rebirth Realm cultivators coldly. What if I join? Great Pink King stepped forward and stood on Sacred Lord Peacock's left and right. They faced the 7 Rebirth Realm cultivators. Chapter 1175. Sacred Lord Peacock's white robe was as white as snow. He looked harmless, but he was like a young demon god, powerful and domineering. The great Rock King's face was sickly pale, but his demonic aura was vast and mighty. Who dared to underestimate him? They were the 2 supreme beings of the demon race. Although they had only cultivated for 800 years, they were much more terrifying than others who had cultivated for tens of thousands of years. It was not without reason that the demon race saw them as the hope of revitalizing the demon race. The 7 reincarnation realm powerhouses included Yin-Yang sect's Song Mingyu. 1 sect 3 palaces. Gong Sun Ming of the Heavenly Gate. Zhongjing family, Zhongjing Fu. Shangguan family, Shangguan Qi. The other 3 powerhouses were Great Qin Empire, Yingxiangji. Yuhua Celestial Dynasty, Huangfu Mie. Archaic School of Moism, Mo Huanyu. These 7 powerhouses were all very powerful, but they did not dare to attack Sacred Lord Peacock and the Great Rock King. Their cultivation was similar to Song Mingyu's. But Sacred Lord Peacock had cut off Song Mingyu's arm with one move. This was enough to show how terrifying Sacred Lord Peacock was. Now that Sacred Lord Peacock and the Great Rock King had joined forces, these people were even more afraid. Originally, the 7 reincarnation realm powerhouses thought that Heavenly God Murong would be able to hold one of them back. After all, it was not difficult for him to do so. But now, Heavenly God Murong was sitting cross-legged in the void far away. He did not even open his eyes. Clearly, he had no intention of interfering. The 7 reincarnation realm powerhouses were very depressed. Initially, they had seen Mu Rong Tianshan fight against Holy Peacock, so the 7 reincarnation cultivators had decided to kill Lin Feng. But now, Heavenly God Murong had withdrawn from this matter and let the 7 of them deal with Sacred Lord Peacock and the Great Rock King. This made the 7 reincarnation realm powerhouses speechless. But thinking about it carefully, Heavenly God Murong had said from the beginning that he did not attack because of Lin Feng, but because he wanted to fight Sacred Lord Peacock. No one believed this reason. But it was their business whether they believed it or not. Heavenly God Murong could use this reason to get out of this matter. Then he could watch the show from the side. Heavenly God Murong now probably wanted Sacred Lord Peacock and the Great Rock King to fight with the 7 reincarnation realm powerhouses. Anyway, it had nothing to do with him. It would be even better if both sides suffered heavy losses. There were quite a few people who had the same idea as Murong Tianshan. Everyone! At this moment, a rebirth realm cultivator spoke. The crowd looked over and discovered that it was an old man. This person's identity was not simple. The one who spoke was the Martial Spirit Palace's chief hall master, Xianyuan Jishur. The Martial Spirit Palace had the right to monitor the Sky Martial Continent. When there were conflicts between the various powers, the Martial Spirit Palace would come out to mediate and try their best to maintain the peace of the Sky Martial Continent. Therefore, the Martial Spirit Palace was extremely terrifying. Even the ancient Jiang clan, the Heavenly God Palace, and other factions were respectful toward the Martial Spirit Palace. As the chief temple master of the Martial Spirit Palace, Xianyuan Jishur's status was naturally not to be underestimated. Seeing Xianyuan Jishur coming over, the 7 reincarnation realm experts breathed a sigh of relief. Sacred Master Peacock asked, "Is there something you need, Palace Master Xianyuan? Once a rebirth realm cultivator dies, it will probably cause a war between the various powers. At that time, countless people will be affected and suffer heavy casualties. I presume that none of you want to see such a situation, right? Why don't you give me some face and take a step back?" Xianyuan Jishur said. "We don't have any objections," the 7 reincarnation realm experts hastily said. Xian Yuan Jishi's appearance gave the 7 of them a way out. Many people sighed. Facing Sacred Master Peacock and King Zhanping, 2 sovereigns of the demon race, the 7 reincarnation realm experts didn't dare to make a move. From this, it could be seen how terrifying Sacred Master Peacock and King Zhanping were. This matter had a huge impact on many people, making them deeply understand a principle. In the end, this world was a world where the strong were respected, even among the peak experts. Only strength could determine a person's status. Sacred Master Peacock and King Zhanping glanced at each other. The 2 of them exchanged glances. Sacred Master Peacock then said, "Brother Xianyuan, we naturally have to give you face, but we also have to see if these 7 people know how to behave." "You!" The 7 reincarnation realm experts' expressions were gloomy. Sacred Master Peacock's tone was too casual when talking about them, as if he didn't put them in his eyes at all. This made the 7 reincarnation realm experts feel extremely sullen. However, in the end, the 7 reincarnation realm experts didn't dare make a move. Gong Sunming said in a low voice, "If you have something to say, just say it. There's no need to hide it." Sacred Master Peacock clasped his hands behind his back and said, "All right. Since you're straightforward people, I'll be frank. The 7 of you, take out 100 million top-grade spirit stones each as compensation, and we'll consider today's matter as settled." 100 million? Why don't you just rob us? The 7 reincarnation realm experts were like cats whose tails had been stepped on. They roared furiously. Top-grade spirit stones were too precious, even for a top group like them. Even if they took out 100 million top-grade spirit stones, they would still suffer a great loss. "You want to fight?" King Zhanping said indifferently. The 7 reincarnation realm experts' expressions became unsightly. They naturally didn't want to fight because they had no chance of winning. If they really fought, the 7 of them would probably be killed by the 2 sovereigns. They knew this very well. "All right, we'll..." The 7 of them clenched their teeth and each took out a crystal card. They gave it to Sacred Master Peacock and said, "This is a crystal card with 100 million top-grade spirit stones stored in it. Any merchant guild in the Tianwu continent can take out top-grade spirit stones. 700 million top-grade spirit stones just like that?" Lin Feng was dumbfounded. Many people's mouths twitched when they saw this, but then they sighed. In front of absolute strength, even the 7 reincarnation realm experts who represented the 7 top groups had to lower their heads. This made many people realize the importance of strength. In front of absolute strength, their so-called influence couldn't even withstand a single blow. Demonic Qi covered the sky and enveloped Sacred Master Peacock, King Zhanping, and Lin Feng. The 3 of them flew into the transportation formation and disappeared without a trace. "Sacred Master Peacock and King Zhanping are going too far." The 7 reincarnation realm experts' eyes flashed with killing intent. "Don't they want to protect Lin Feng? Then let's destroy Lin Feng and have our chosen kill Lin Feng. Indeed, let's do that. The Peacock King and King Zhanping won't be able to protect the people we want to kill. After we kill Lin Feng, we'll send his head to the Peacock King and King Zhanping's residence. I really want to see their expressions when they see Lin Feng's head." The 7 reincarnation state experts communicated with each other through their spiritual consciousnesses as they laughed sinisterly. Chapter 1176. Lin Feng once again arrived at the territory of the Yao continent's sacred Lord Peacock. Big brother, big brother. When Little Moon heard that Lin Feng had arrived, she was extremely happy. She skipped over to Lin Feng. When she saw Lin Feng, she opened her arms and ran over. Lin Feng hugged Little Moon and smiled. "Did you miss Big Brother?" Little Moon said innocently. Little Moon missed Big Brother. She even kissed Lin Feng on the cheek. Many people around them chuckled. Lin Feng saw many familiar faces, Jin Xingyuan, Princess Shui Yao, and the others. At night, Jin Xingyuan came to Lin Feng's place. He took out a crystal card and gave it to Lin Feng. Jin Xingyuan said, "Uncle asked me to give this to you." There are 100 million top-grade spirit stones inside. You can use them to cultivate. Sacred Lord Peacock and King Zhanping had extorted these stones from the 7 rebirth realm cultivators, but 100 million was too much. He said, "There are so many people in the land of the demonic beasts, and they need cultivation resources. I don't lack top-grade spirit stones, please help me return them to the seniors." Jin Xingyuan said, "Since Uncle is giving them to you, just accept them. Don't refuse. You don't need to worry about the territory of the Yao continent. Uncle Kong found a few large spiritual mines, and with the 600 million top-grade spirit stones he obtained recently, he can solve the problem of the Yao continent's need for cultivation resources. On the other hand, Brother Feng, you have too many spirit stones. You need too many spirit stones to break through to the life and death realm." Lin Feng knew that King Zhanping and Sacred Lord Peacock were helping him. Lin Feng was indeed lacking in spirit stones. Lin Feng was extremely grateful to the 2 seniors. It wasn't just because they had saved his life. It was also because both King Zhanping and Sacred Lord Peacock treated Lin Feng like he was their own descendant. This was not a friendship that was purely based on the exchange of interests, but a kind of affection similar to family. For Lin Feng, who did not have any relatives by his side, he naturally cherished this kind of relationship very much. He didn't refuse again, and put the crystal card away. Lin Feng stayed in the Sacred Peacock Lord's territory for about half a month before returning to the desolate region. Now that Sacred Lord Peacock and Great Ping King had intimidated the rebirth realm ancestors of the top forces, Lin Feng was not afraid that they would attack him. Lin Feng guessed that some of the geniuses from the top powers would make a move. However, Lin Feng wasn't afraid of those geniuses. Not long after they returned to the Blue Cloud sect, Shi Weizhu, Baiying, Wang Hu, and the others also returned. "I'm going on a long journey." The old drunkard was somewhat melancholy. "Where to?" Lin Feng asked. "The 4 seas as home." The old drunkard took a sip of wine and grinned. This old man was obviously not telling the truth. The old drunkard's identity was very mysterious. Even Lin Feng didn't know who he was. However, the old drunkard was definitely not a simple person. "Will we have a chance to meet again?" Lin Feng asked. "Maybe, maybe not," the old drunkard said. Lin Feng nodded. That night, he chatted with the old drunkard for a long time. They drank until dawn, and he lost consciousness. 1,000 cups are not enough when drinking with a bosom friend. When Lin Feng woke up, the old drunkard had already left, leaving behind a note. The old drunkard had left just like that, and the laughter in the Supreme Peak seemed to have died down. Bibi and the Dragon Rabbit were still sleeping most of the time. When they woke up, they would run around the Supreme Peak like crazy. Lin Feng spent his days either cultivating or studying the Celestial Master Sect's inheritance and alchemy. Of course, he would also occasionally train Wei Zhu and Baiying. Baiying was more daring. If Lin Feng wanted to do something exciting, she would cooperate with Lin Feng. Shi Weizhu was more shy. Each of them had their own personalities and strengths. Of course, the one he trained the most was Lu Mingyan. She was quite interesting. Moreover, she was even more open than Baiying when it came to sex. The days passed until Lin Feng received a letter. It was from Xikong Xinyan, the sister of Lin Feng's good friend, Xikong Jiayue. It was addressed to Lin Feng. Lin Feng's expression changed slightly when he read the letter. After giving some instructions on the Supreme Peak, he quickly rushed to the eastern region's Aolai ancient capital Xikong clan. Lin Feng hadn't seen Xikong Xinyan in 3 or 4 years. The girl from back then had grown into a beautiful woman. She was pure and full of spirit. Even Lin Feng was stunned by her beauty. When she saw Lin Feng arrive, Xikong Xinyan's eyes reddened. Lin Feng asked, "How did your brother go missing? Did he leave behind any special news before he disappeared?" "A year ago, my brother and a dozen friends went to the depths of the Eastern Sea. They said they were looking for some secret treasure. Every once in a while, my brother would send a white paper crane to tell me that he was safe. But half a year ago, there was no news. Big brother Lin Feng, I'm so worried. Did something happen to him?" Tears immediately flowed out of Sikong Sinyan's eyes. Right now, she only had her brother, Sikong Jiayue, to rely on. If something were to happen to Sikong Jiayue, then it would be a huge blow to Sikong Sinyan. Lin Feng said. Sikong will definitely be fine. I'll go look for him tomorrow. Sikong Sinyan nodded and said, Big brother Lin Feng, thank you. If it wasn't for you, I really wouldn't know what to do. Sikong is my friend, so this is what I should do. Don't worry. Sikong is a cautious person, so he should be fine. Lin Feng comforted her, and Sikong Sinyan finally stopped crying. After resting for a night in Sikong Sinyan's clan, Lin Feng left for the Eastern Sea the next morning. However, it wasn't easy to find someone's whereabouts in the boundless Eastern Sea. Lin Feng planned to ask Murong Baichuan for information. As the person in charge of the Central Union of Spirit Formation Masters in the 72 prefectures, Murong Baichuan had a lot of connections. Perhaps he would be able to get some useful information from him. As Lin Feng flew towards the Eastern Sea, he couldn't help looking at the fog-shrouded world on the shores of the Eastern Sea. The legendary Mount Huagua was there, and the story of the sacred battle apes was still being told in this vast land. Everything about Mount Huagua was a mystery. Was there really a Mount Huagua? What was inside that fog-shrouded world? Even at his current cultivation realm, that fog-shrouded world still gave Lin Feng a very dangerous feeling. Lin Feng frowned slightly, but he didn't stop and quickly flew towards the Eastern Sea. Late at night on the shores of the Eastern Sea in the depths of the fog-shrouded world, a golden spirit ape slipped out of that mysterious world. Chapter 1177. The East Sea was as lively as ever. Countless cultivators would gather at the outer seas because there were too many resources in the outer seas. Moreover, the population of the outer seas was much smaller than the population of the inner seas. There were also more opportunities to obtain fortuitous opportunities in the outer seas. On the way to the first gathering area of the East Sea, Lin Feng would occasionally see huge ships sailing toward the deep sea world. Most of them were cultivators who had entered the East Sea in search of fortuitous opportunities. There were also some emissaries sent by the royal families of the secular dynasties who had gone to the Immortal Island to seek immortal medicine. The East Sea world was still very unsafe. Pirates were rampant. This was the age of great voyages, especially in the vast seas. The dream of countless cultivators was to become a powerful pirate. It had almost become a very special profession. Half a month later, Lin Feng arrived at the first gathering area of the East Sea. When he arrived, he heard the sound of heavenly music coming from afar. A huge group of people was flying over from afar. In the middle of the group was a carriage pulled by 9 Pegasus horses. Around the carriage were hundreds of guards. These bodyguards were all vigorous men. The leader of the group was riding a strange beast that looked as ferocious as a tauhai. The arrival of this group attracted the attention of countless people. Lin Feng landed on the ground and looked at a middle-aged cultivator beside him. He asked, "Uncle, who are those people? Why is there such a large group?" "That's Madame Chi's carriage." The middle-aged cultivator revealed a meaningful expression. Lin Feng was rather confused by this expression. Why did he feel that this middle-aged cultivator's expression was somewhat sinister? He asked, "Who is Madame Chi?" The middle-aged cultivator replied, "You don't even know Madame Chi?" Lin Feng replied, "This is my second time coming to the East Sea world, so I'm not too familiar with it." "No wonder." The middle-aged cultivator nodded and said, "Madame Chi is the owner of Desire Island. Desire Island is located at the border between the East Sea and South Sea. Desire Island is very mysterious, and just like Madame Chi, it's filled with countless mysteries. Madame Chi's beauty is unparalleled in the world, and countless people are willing to do anything for her just to get close to her. Madame Chi is also very good at using her beauty, and who knows how many men have fallen for her. Little brother, you're young, handsome, and strong, so you should go and meet Madame Chi. Madame Chi loves to play with young heroes like you the most. I heard that she's very good at serving men, And I guarantee that you'll be able to fly into the clouds and enjoy the most extreme happiness." Lin Feng was speechless when he saw the middle-aged cultivator. That middle-aged cultivator looked righteous, but surprisingly, he was such a scoundrel. You really couldn't judge a book by its cover, just like how the sea couldn't be measured with a pint pot. However, Lin Feng was able to obtain the answer he wanted from the middle-aged cultivator. To put it simply, Madame Qi was a slut. However, she was different from an ordinary slut. Ordinary sluts simply like to have sex with different men to satisfy their body's needs. As for Madame Qi, she was not someone you could taste and enjoy as you wished. Madame Qi had strict requirements for the men who wanted to enjoy her, such as cultivation, identity, appearance, ability, and so on. Therefore, people who could get close to her were not simple. Boom, at this time, a violent fluctuation suddenly came from the distance. The two cultivators stood together. One of them was wearing a black robe and had a cold face. The other was wearing chain mail and had a tall and sturdy figure. "Yang Buping, Hu Qianlai!" Many people cried out in alarm. These two were not simple, and were experts from the top forces of the East Sea world. The division of forces in the East Sea world was rather special. The 3 saints and 4 islands were the forces on the surface, but the East Sea was so vast that there were still some hidden forces. For example, the legend of the East Sea Dragon Palace had always existed, but no one had seen the East Sea Dragon Palace, so they could not confirm whether it really existed. Other than the East Sea Dragon Palace, there were also some legendary forces, such as the East Sea Immortal Island, the Flying Immortal Sect, and so on. However, no one had seen these forces before. Perhaps they really did exist, but even if they did, it was very likely that they were in the deepest part of the East Sea. The deepest part of the East Sea was too dangerous, so basically no cultivators entered that part of the sea. However, most of the cultivators who entered that part of the sea had died. The two people fighting now, Yang Buping came from the Panlai Immortal Island of the 3 Immortals and 4 Islands, and Hu Qianlai came from the Raging Flame Island of the 3 Immortals and 4 Islands. Obviously, Yang Buping was a cultivator from a human force, and Hu Qianlai was a cultivator from a demon force. The demon forces in the East Sea world were very powerful and had a pivotal position in the East Sea world. They usually lived in harmony with the human cultivators, and there would not be a large-scale war between the human and demon forces like in the South Continent. Seeing the two people fighting in the void, Lin Feng turned his head to look at the middle-aged cultivator and asked, "What's the conflict between these two people? They're attacking with the intention of taking each other's lives." The middle-aged cultivator said, "Recently, they've been wanting to have a taste of that slut, Madame Qi. Now, it's obvious that they want to determine a winner. The winner will be able to do it with Madame Qi. This Madame Qi is really..." Lin Feng couldn't help but shake his head slightly. The women of the Tianwu continent were very conservative, and they valued their chastity. Many women said that they would be faithful to one man until death. Therefore, when had he ever seen a slut like Madame Qi? For a moment he was speechless. Heavenly lightning descended. Yang Buping shouted coldly and used a secret technique. Lightning flashed in the void. Bolts of lightning smashed towards Hu Qianlai. Raging flames burning the heavens. Hu Qianlai was not a simple person. He had condensed a divine flame, and the flames burned fiercely, burning the world. Bang! The two people's attacks collided. Hu Qianlai had the upper hand. He took a step forward, and his body blocked the 3 bolts of lightning. Then, he swept up an endless amount of raging flames and rushed forward. Raging flames destroying the world. The raging flames bombarded Yang Buping's body, directly blasting Yang Buping away. Wah! Yang Buping was heavily injured, and his body fell down. "Ha ha, Madame Qi, can I get intimate with you now?" Hu Qianlai walked towards Madame Qi's carriage. A seductive voice came from the carriage. "Come quickly, I can't wait any longer." What a slut! Many cultivators muttered. They couldn't wait to replace Hu Qianlai and fight Madame Qi for 300 rounds. "I'm coming!" Hu Qianlai rushed towards the carriage, burning with impatience. Many people saw Hu Qianlai's towering figure and secretly wondered if Madame Qi would be half dead because of him. Chapter 1178. Lin Feng didn't stop, he went straight to the Central Union of Great Talismans. He was the great elder of the Central Union of Great Talismans. He had a lot of power, and could use the resources of the Central Union of Great Talismans. With the Central Union of Great Talismans, it would be much easier to find Xikong Jiayue. When Lin Feng arrived at the Central Union of Great Talismans, he met someone who surprised him. It was Jin Xingfei, a descendant of Tianping King. When Lin Feng saw him, he couldn't help but frown. Lin Feng didn't have a good impression of Jin Xingfei. He had met Jin Xingfei once in the territory of the Yao clan. He had also heard Jin Xingyuan talk about Tianping King and Tianping King. The great Ping King was humiliated when he tried to become a disciple of a master. He was even slandered by the people of the divine Ping Island for not knowing how to respect his elders. The great Ping King was chased out of the divine Ping Island, and for many years after that, the great Ping King carried the name of not knowing how to respect his elders. The real reason was that Tianping King had been jealous of Tianping King's talent. Tianping King had kicked Tianping King out, and then blamed Tianping King for not knowing how to respect his elders. This Jin Xingfei had always had a lofty expression on his face. He had mocked Jin Xingyuan for what happened in the past, causing Jin Xingyuan to feel extremely embarrassed. This Jin Xingfei was merely a junior, yet he dared to mock the great Rock King behind his back. If one were to say that Jin Xingfei had no sense of propriety, then Jin Xingfei was the one who had no sense of propriety. Isn't this Brother Lin? I heard that Brother Lin had a brilliant performance in the Battle of the Geniuses. Congratulations! Jin Xingfei smiled and bowed hand over fist. This person was a typical smiling tiger. It was unknown how much sincerity there was in his congratulatory words. Lin Feng said indifferently, "There are many geniuses in the world. Even though I'm talented, I'm not as strong as many of them. Brother Jin, please don't flatter me." Lin Feng didn't mind pretending to be polite to Jin Xingfei. He wanted to see what Jin Xingfei wanted to do. "Brother Lin, you're too modest. With your talent, you'll catch up to me sooner or later," Jin Xingfei said with a fake smile. After pausing for a moment, Jin Xingfei continued, "There will be a gathering tomorrow night, and many people will be there. Brother Lin, do you have time to join us?" Lin Feng nodded. "Since Brother Jin has invited me, how can I refuse?" "Haha, see you tomorrow," Jin Xingfei said with a smile. The two of them then took their leave. Jin Xingfei and a group of people walked out of the Spiritual Array Caster Guild, while Lin Feng entered the Spiritual Array Caster Guild. When the two of them turned their heads, they sneered. It was naturally impossible for Lin Feng and Jin Xingfei to become friends. Both of them were feigning civility because they each had their own goals. "Young master, Lin Feng has appeared in the East Sea. This is our territory. I've heard that he has many magical treasures and powerful divine abilities. He even obtained the legacy of a heavenly master. Why don't we?" A guard next to Jin Xingfei made a throat-slitting gesture. Jin Xingfei smiled. "When the sandpiper and the clam fight, the fisherman benefits. There are many people who want to kill him and steal his treasures. It won't be too late for us to make a move when they fight to the death. Young master, you're so wise." The group of guards immediately started flattering Jin Xingfei. "The divine rock island of the 3 saints and 4 islands is located in the East Sea. It's a powerful force. It seems that Jin Xingfei doesn't have good intentions towards me. He's a descendant of the Heavenly Rock King, but if he really dares to provoke me, I won't mind killing him." Lin Feng sneered. The only person he was afraid of now was the Heavenly Rock King. That person was a powerful existence. The bloodline of the Golden-Winged Rock clan flowed in his veins. His cultivation was bound to be shocking. Lin Feng met Murong Baichuan at the Spiritual Array Caster Guild. When he saw Lin Feng, Murong Baichuan was very happy. He smiled and said, I have something to discuss with you. I didn't expect you to come to the East Sea, Lin Feng asked. What is it? The four ancestors want to see you. They hope that you can go to the Temple of Spiritual Array Casters in the Central Continent. It's a good opportunity. If you go there, you'll definitely obtain some unexpected benefits. Murong Baichuan smiled. Obviously, the four saint-ranked Spiritual Array Casters wanted to rope him in. Lin Feng was very clear about this. When Murong Baichuan mentioned unexpected benefits, Lin Feng was a bit vague, but he knew that it would be extremely shocking. Going to see the four saint-ranked Spiritual Array Casters is a good idea. We'll meet sooner or later, but it'll take some time, Lin Feng said. Murong Baichuan asked. Why have you come to the East Sea? Lin Feng replied. Something happened to Sikong Jiayue. There hasn't been any news from him for half a year. Sikong Xinyan was very worried and told me about it. I came to the East Sea to look for Sikong Jiayue. Something happened to Jiayue? Murong Baichuan's expression became serious. He was friends with Sikong Jiayue's grandfather who had passed away, so he was quite concerned about Sikong Jiayue. Xinyan said that he went to the depths of the East Sea with a dozen or so friends. We don't know what exactly they're going to do. Let's go find Sikong Jiayue, Lin Feng said. I'll ask Wang Changming to investigate. You can rest in the guild for a few days. I'm sure you'll get some news soon, Murong Baichuan said. Lin Feng nodded. At night, Jiang Chao came to the Guild of Spiritual Array Casters. He must have heard about Lin Feng's arrival, so he came to visit Lin Feng. The eldest miss has invited us. The carriage has already been prepared for Lin Gongzi, Jiang Chao said. Jiang Chao smiled. Jian Yudi was now in charge of all the auction houses in the Jiang clan's 72 prefectures. The headquarters of the auction house was located in the first district of the East Sea. Lin Feng and Jiang Chao went to the headquarters of the auction house to see Jian Yudi. Jian Yudi was as beautiful, noble, and elegant as ever. When she saw Lin Feng, she smiled and said, Why are you here in the East Sea? Lin Feng told her about Sikong Jiayue. Jiang Yudi said, Do you want me to send someone to ask around? Lin Feng said, The vice president of the Guild of Spiritual Array Casters, Wang Changming, is in charge of this matter. I'm sure he'll get some news soon. Okay. Jiang Yudi nodded. Jian Yudi paused for a moment before continuing. You have to be careful during this time. I heard that many people are looking for you. Di Xingtian? Ning Li Tao, Gong Sun Wushu, and the others? Lin Feng asked. Jian Yudi nodded and said, Also, the young geniuses of the three-headed Cobra clan and the sky-devouring demonic Toad clan are not to be underestimated. I'm not afraid of them, Lin Feng said. Of course you're not afraid of any of them, but what if they join forces to deal with you? Jiang Yudi asked. Lin Feng was slightly taken aback, but then he nodded. That wasn't an impossible situation. That night, Ning Han's Huang also arrived at the first district of the East Sea. She was accompanied by dozens of top-notch assassins from the 9 underworlds. This time, the East Sea will become Lin Feng's burial ground. The leader of the assassins carried a cold sword on his back, and his voice was hoarse and unpleasant to the ears. Chapter 1179. Not everyone was qualified to attend the gathering in the number 1 cultivator residence. There were strict requirements for one's cultivation level, identity, and so on. Lin Feng didn't belong to the same social circle, so it wasn't easy for him to join other people's social circles. That evening, Lin Feng went to Wang Hai restaurant. When he arrived, there was already a huge crowd. Lin Feng was surprised. How could there be so many people here? It was inconceivable. Lin Feng asked a few questions and found out the reason. It turned out that there were going to be a few famous beauties from the overseas world attending this gathering. Jian Yudi was the young miss of the Jiang family. Her status was unattainable. She had a noble temperament and a beautiful face. She was regarded as a goddess by countless people. There were also a few other beauties. The first one was called the Forgotten Love Fairy, Suibing. She was the saintess of the Heartless Island. The second one was called the Lingyu Fairy, Miao Yuling. She was the saintess of the Four Seasons sect. The Four Seasons sect was a power in the South Sea. The third one was called the Raging Flame Fairy, Hualair. She was the princess of the Endless Fire Nation in the Netherworld Sea. These three women were even more famous than Jian Yudi in the sea region. Jian Yudi had always lived in the inner continent. She had only been in the East Sea for a few years. Suibing, Miao Yuling, and Hualair had lived in the sea since they were young. The North, South, East, West, and North Seas of the Tianwu continent, as well as the Netherworld Sea and the Endless Sea, were all closely connected. Because the world of the sea was in the age of navigation, all kinds of news spread quickly. In the age of navigation, the things that countless cultivators cared about the most were wealth and women. Beauties like Suibing, Miao Yuling, and Hualair naturally attracted a lot of attention. Rumble! A flood dragon pulled a carriage over. Someone recognized the origin of the divine carriage. It was the Jiang family's divine carriage. Jian Yudi walked out and entered the Ocean View restaurant under the shocked gazes of countless cultivators. As expected of the young miss of the Jiang family, her temperament is noble and elegant. Her every movement makes people feel her noble temperament. His aura is indeed outstanding, but because of that, he makes people feel ashamed of themselves. In front of Jian Yudi, I feel a deep sense of inferiority. That's why I prefer women like Suibing. Although she's cold, she can arouse a man's desire to conquer her. Jian Yudi said. I like Miao Yuling, she looks like she's made of water, she's as gentle as water. If I can get her, I'll have no regrets. I like Hualair. She's passionate and bold. That's the kind of woman I like. Many cultivators were talking about the beauties, and their eyes were shining. Experts continued to arrive and enter the ocean gazing tower. Suibing, Miaolingyu, and Hualair also arrived one after another. These three women were indeed beautiful and alluring. Every single one of them could be said to be a peerless beauty in the world. It was no wonder that they could become the goddesses in the hearts of countless people. Of course, the three women's temperaments were completely different. Suibing was wearing a long white dress. She was as cold as a fairy from the Moon Palace. She had an unapproachable expression on her face. Miao Yuling was wearing a long purple dress. She had an elegant and gentle temperament. Her temperament was as gentle as water. Hualair was wearing a long red dress. Her lips were as red as flames, and she looked like a hot rose. She looked very passionate and unrestrained. Lin Feng had always felt that beautiful women were masterpieces of the heavens. They were like the most perfect works of art. If they were all the same, they would naturally be boring. Only with different personalities could they bring out a lively life, such as Suibing, Miao Yuling, and Hualair. One was as cold as the moon, one was as gentle as water, and one was as passionate as fire. There were many cultivators who liked each of these personalities. These three beauties had many bodyguards by their side. To be able to act as their bodyguards, those cultivators' identities were not simple. Some of them were even Supreme Being Heaven's chosen. For example, Lin Feng saw Shui Zongxian next to Suibing. He was a chosen from the heaven-devouring demonic toad clan. The three beauties didn't stop outside. They quickly entered the ocean-gazing tower. In the distance, a flying horse pulled a carriage. "Isn't that Madame Chi's carriage?" many people exclaimed. They didn't expect Madame Chi to come. The flying horse carriage stopped in the void. Madame Chi walked out of it. This was the first time Lin Feng saw Madame Chi's appearance. He was slightly stunned. Madame Chi was very tall. She was a classic beauty with long legs and a slim waist. Her entire body was curvaceous. This kind of figure was very lethal to men. Moreover, Madame Chi had a beautiful and pure face. It was hard to believe that Madame Chi, a slut who dared to have sex with someone in a carriage in broad daylight, actually looked so pure and charming. In addition to being pure and charming, Madame Chi also looked very young. She was about 23 or 24 years old. It was said that Madame Chi had cultivated for 500 years. Compared to the long lifespan of cultivators, 500 years was naturally a very short time. Therefore, cultivators aged very slowly. For cultivators with a lifespan of 10,000 years, even if they lived for 3,000 or 4,000 years, they would still look like mortals in their 20s or 30s. Madame Chi's arrival caused quite a stir. This woman was very good at showing off her charming parts. She wore a pink gauze dress that completely revealed her perfect figure. What made people want to vomit blood was that Madame Chi wasn't wearing anything except for that translucent gauze dress. Her key parts were faintly discernible. This slut is really too slutty. Many male cultivators were already swallowing their saliva. They wanted nothing more than to press Madame Chi on the ground and enjoy her. Madame Chi swayed her slender waist as she walked into the ocean-gazing tower. I'm willing to die if I can go to Mount Wu with Madame Chi. Many cultivators were discussing in low voices. They couldn't forget Madame Chi. For many cultivators, Jiang Yudi, Suibing, Miaoling Yu, and Hua Lai were four beauties who could only be seen from afar. There was no chance for them to get close. However, a slut like Madame Chi might have a chance to get close to her. Many people were even thinking about finding a chance to seduce Madame Chi. Who knew, they might be able to enjoy Madame Chi's body? Lin Feng walked towards the ocean-gazing tower. At that moment, more than 10 cultivators flew over from afar and landed. The cultivator in the lead was the supreme genius of the three-headed Cobra clan, Yao Xiaolong. When the evil dragon saw Lin Feng, he looked at Lin Feng icily. P.S. I stayed up late to watch the match between Real Madrid and Bayern last night. I'm a bit tired, so I'm a bit late. This is the third update, and there are still 4 more.